Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Sorry about the tech delays, but we're rolling now. We got a super tech team with Kevin and Kate, and then the newest member is Billy. Billy immediately, we're going to be giving out prizes this weekend, and Billy, before he even got his name set up at his table here in person, he already saved us tech-wise, so he immediately got a prize of chocolates. There's lots of prizes out there for this weekend, including digital prizes for our people on the live stream, and then in person we have t-shirts, books, and bumper stickers. So everyone, you want to really up your game for this class because prizes are awaiting. So to get started, we're going to have our host.
Just want to do one thing. Since we're not able to log on and test to see if the Zoom is working, could you ask the Zoom folks if they're hearing you okay?
Right. Zoom folks, Kate is the wonder kid over there for on the chat. So if you can just let her know in the chat how's.
If someone could unmute.
Oh, if someone could unmute.
Are you hearing us?
Kate, give me a name from somebody on that list.
Isla.
Isla? Isla, can you unmute?
I have yes.
Great.
You can hear us.
Great. I was about to take back Billy's chocolate, so that's good.
I'm unmuted.
Great.
There we are.
Great. It's like you're here with us. Can you smell the wine?
I wish I could.
Okay. And the scones? Okay. So again, sorry about the delay. Lou, our gracious host, and his wife Susan are hosting us right now, and we're just so appreciative of the beautiful space. And so we're going to have Lou come in and say a couple words just of welcome, and then we'll get started with the class.
Do I use this microphone?
No. Oh yeah, you could.
Since I'm not wired.
Yes, and here's the world there in that.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll speak up. This is just going to Zoom, right?
Just going to
Zoom. I'll speak more loudly. Welcome to Preston Farm and Winery. And Toby, thank you for letting us crash your party, letting me crash your party. This is so unusual. I don't have to talk about Zinfandel or Sauvignon Blanc. I can talk about the things that are fun and much more important. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the story of Preston, a little bit of background. How did we get here? How did we get together? And where do we go from here? And I can't wait to have you all laid out on benches here with needles stuck in you. I'm looking forward to that. So Susan and I have been here in Dry Creek Valley for 50 years. We are first generation in Dry Creek, although my family had a farm on the other side of Healdsburg. Our hometown is Healdsburg. This is for the benefit of people that are zooming in. But we're also very close to the town of Cloverdale, which is where Toby and Lori are friends and acupuncturists, and Flourish Medicine is located. And just one of my pet peeves, Healdsburg has become self-important about wine, and Cloverdale is still normal folks, fun folks.
Except for me.
And so we're slowly being torn away from Healdsburg and toward Cloverdale and Toby. Here on this property, I came with a passion and an obsession for grapes and for wine. And Susan came with tolerance of me. And so she allowed me to play my thing for quite a long time. It wasn't until we'd been doing grapes and wine for a couple of decades, then we sort of stepped back. And we asked ourselves, what should we be doing here? What can we be doing here? And this area, Dry Creek Valley, has a long history of farming. Farming for food, farming for families. It didn't always used to be about making wine. Of course, during Prohibition, that part of it was really important because they had some really skilled bootleggers here, including on this property, and that's how they survived. They made some excellent Zinfandel and took it in their trucks at midnight out to the coast and shipped it off to San Francisco. So there is that tradition of being of adjusting to the times, of being clever and creative, and of developing a society around food and wine. So we kind of picked up on that. We had gotten to know many of the old timers from this neighborhood. Many of them were Italians, but not all. And we decided that what we wanted to do on this property was nourish and appeal to the whole person, the whole individual, the whole society. And so we began, gingerly at first, we began to diversify. We actually took out some vineyards and we put in pasture for animals, for sheep and for pastured hens. We put in fruit trees. At first it was, we took out every 8th row of vineyard in some of the blocks, thinking that diversity within that block would give it more resistance to pests. We planted annual vegetables that we sold at the farmer's market. I had developed a hobby of baking bread, and we learned how to grow grains, wheat and rye. And all of a sudden this place came alive. It's amazing when you drive down this valley, this is one of my pet peeves, and all you see is acre after acre after acre of grapes. Monoculture. Monoculture is, it's boring. It's just really boring. But there's just so much more that you can do here, and we wanted to do more. So along with this diversity of food, we began to think about the ecology of the area, the environment, and we've done some major projects here to restore the creek banks that had been degraded by earlier generations of farmers. We installed hedgerows all over the property to interject or to include more diversity beyond just food crops. We began to work with a local nonprofit to host summer camps for young people, especially disadvantaged families. And we, in fact, this week coming up, we're beginning a month-long series of camps. Each camp is a week long. And even during COVID, we did it. We had circles of 10 kids wearing masks and separated. But it didn't matter. They just had such fun. They would just dance around and sing, and they would go running after bugs, and they'd help us plant stuff in the farm. And so what we've learned to grow, beside grapes, is food and families and young people. And we just wish that we had come to that wonderful awareness of the potentials earlier than we did, but we're here now and we're enjoying it. We love it. So, what's the connection with Toby? What's the connection with acupuncture? Along with the changes that we adopted over the years, we learned and adopted organic farming, biodynamic farming. We learned regenerative agriculture. We learned to read the soils and make connections that most American farmers don't make with the cosmos, with your local community. And we began to see the parallel with Chinese medicine. You may think this is a stretch, but for us, it all kind of happened at the same time. We realized that there's more to life than this sort of deterministic cause and effect, whatever, that we are part of a larger whole. And that's something that's honored and respected by Chinese medicine, and it's honored and respected by Rudolf Steiner and biodynamics and well, the organic I mentioned, and the kind of farming and appreciation of nature that looks at the greater whole. So I'm being a little bit repetitive, but as we became organic farmers, we also became connected with Toby and Lori, and with Chinese medicine, and with a different way of looking at our own health while we're looking at the health of the land. So it's been a wonderful partnership, and thank you, Toby, for being part of it. And thank you all for your support for this movement of appreciating and understanding the mind-body connections and the whole body aspect. It's so important. And I could go on forever, and I won't do that to you right now.
Tell them about Saam acupuncture.
About which? About
Lou,
you want me to show you how to stick the needles in?
That was important. Lou, how many needles do we use when we see you?
Once you used more than 4, but every time it's supposed to be 4, and when he does the 5th one, I yell, and he's not allowed to go into the bony areas more than every other week.
Okay.
Can't do it all the time.
But I do what I want when I see you, Lou, and you know that. Lou, and the 5th point is just for VIPs, Lou, so don't tell them about that.
Yeah. So one of the things I've got to tell on Toby a little bit.
Okay, that's all the time we have.
Well, my first 1 or 2 visits with Toby, I was really nervous and kind of scared. And what's this thing about needles? And
Lou,
so
learned what
to
jingle
lighten the
points
mood,
are.
to lighten the mood, you'll appreciate this. So to lighten the mood, I told a joke, which was a really stupid joke, while I was lying back on the table, and Toby looked at me and he said, "Lou, this is my office. I'll tell the jokes here." And I haven't lived that one down since.
Doesn't sound like something I would say.
The other thing that's really special about Toby, I don't know if you all do this. There's this word that I kind of have trouble pronouncing, anthropomorphize. Toby has a way of anthropomorphizing Chinese medicine. He will say, Chinese medicine likes protein that walks on 4 legs. As if to say, yeah, it's okay to eat meat, but he has his way of saying it. And I love that. Chinese medicine to me is like my brother or my mother or my friend. So it's part of the personality of what you all do, and it makes it real. So anyway, I've said enough, and you guys got to do some learning, and maybe you can teach Toby a thing or two. So
Always.
go for it.
Always, yeah.
And make yourselves at home here. When you're you got a little space of time, walk around, make yourselves at home. Tasting room and the winery are over there. You're welcome to visit. Certainly, there's a farm store with the goodies that we make. Oh, I was show and tell. When you're in the wine business, you learn that whenever you have a microphone in your hand, you got to use it. This is where we started. Wine. This is what we do now. Turnips. Olive oil from trees on the property.
Organic too, look.
Organic, yeah, there are holes in it.
Beautiful.
Bread from wheat that we grow. My favorite, which is bread from rye that we grow. And we just don't know how to stop. So all this stuff is out there. And we'd love to have you be part of it. That's it.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thanks so much.
I'm
Lou.
out of here.
Thanks. Don't do the mic drop. That's Kevin's expensive microphone. Okay. Thanks so much, Lou. Thanks for being such a good host, and thanks for inviting us. Okay. All right. So thanks again to Lou. All right. So good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for coming to this introduction to the Saam acupuncture tradition. I'm excited to share my 25 years of experience with the system with you, and I appreciate you considering to make a little bit of room on your clinical tool belt for one more clinical tool. I especially appreciate that we are going to discuss our nature-based medicine, surrounded by nature, right? This is, usually I do this in a windowless conference room, so this is a nice change to me, right? Opposite of a windowless conference room, we have nature coming in and out with us. So we're going to be discussing the microcosm of the body and also how it relates to the macrocosm. So we're just immersed in that. That being said, we do have a whole bunch of blankets over here if anybody needs them, and we can heat them up too if you get really cold. Okay, so there's a downside to this weekend, and I want to get that out straight away. The downside this weekend is you have to learn a complete system. It's not possible to use the Saam system, use a little part of it, and have it help your clinical work. You have to use the system in its entirety. So that's a downside for this weekend. The upside, and the upside's considerable, is that you already know all the parts of this system, and you know them intimately. It's just yin-yang, 5-phase, and 6 conformation theories. I think of these theories as lenses that I look through in order to diagnose or to treat or to develop further theory. The unique part about the Saam system is we take these lenses, we take all 3 lenses, we line them up and look through them all with equal weight, yin-yang, 5-phase, and 6 conformation for everything we do in the Saam system. So it's true you have a downside this weekend. The upside is you already know all the parts. So this weekend we're just going to be putting everything back together for you. Before we get into the system itself, I just want to kind of pull back and just look at how fortunate we are to be physicians in the first place. This is the introduction to the principles of maternal medicine. It's a Western medical text published in 1950. This text is, at the time in 1950s, there was only less than 5% of physicians were female. So we just have to leave the gender part about this. But please just focus on the spirit of this. No greater opportunity, responsibility, or obligation can fall to the lot of a human being than to become a physician. In the care of suffering, he needs technical skill, scientific knowledge, and human understanding. He who uses these with courage, with humility, and with wisdom will provide a unique service for his fellow man and will build an enduring edifice of character within himself. The physician should ask of his destiny no more than this, and he should be content with no less. Tact, sympathy, and understanding are expected of the physician, for the patient is no mere collection of symptoms, signs, disordered functions, damaged organs, and disturbed emotions. No. He is human, fearful and hopeful, seeking relief, help, and reassurance. To the physician, as to the anthropologist, nothing human is strange or repulsive. The misanthrope, he may become a smart diagnostician of organic disease, but he can scarcely hope to succeed as a physician. The true physician has a Shakespearean breadth of interest in the wise and the foolish, the proud and the humble, the stoic hero, as well as the whining rogue. In short, he cares for people. So the Saam system has this exact same concept at the very center of it. For the Saam system, we say the medicine must come from our hearts. So we're going to be learning a lot of technical details and theories and things like this throughout the weekend. But please keep in mind the backbone of the system is that the medicine must come from our hearts. And then you're going to be just learning a lot of theory and things like that on top of that. But don't forget about the backbone. I have just a little bit of housekeeping things. I want to take especially good care of your attention this weekend. So every hour we'll be taking a break. I have a timer going, and every hour we'll take a break. We've got a lot of high-level concepts we need to snap together for our work, and so keeping your attention nice and razor sharp, this will be really valuable for us this weekend. If you have any questions throughout the weekend, just go ahead and ask them straight away. We're going to be building something together, and so especially this first day, any questions that come up, I'd love to just tidy up anything we can so that our structure is nice and strong. We have a really nice foundation. Today will be the foundation. People on the live stream, welcome. And again, sorry about our technical problems. People on the live stream, if you have any questions, like I was telling you, you have Kate. You can just reach out to Kate on the chat, and she's going to facilitate questions to me right away as they come up. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Kate if anything comes up during the class. She's your contact for her in the chat. If you're like me, or like how I used to be too shy to ask questions in class, I was always too shy, never asked questions in class. We've got paper and pens in the back, and you can write any questions that you have, and you can leave up here on this desk during breaks. When I come back from breaks, if there's any questions there, I'll do my best to answer them. Our overall goal this weekend is for you to have a new clinical tool for your clinical toolbelt first thing Monday morning and be able to use it first thing Monday morning. So this is pretty ambitious, but it's definitely doable. But everything that we're going to do, every word I'm going to say, all the slides, everything is aimed at that one goal, so you can use this first thing Monday morning. I'm interested in any feedback you have for me throughout the weekend, especially a little bit of feedback throughout the weekend I'd appreciate. But also, we're going to be passing out evaluation forms at the end. And I know when I do CEU classes, I just skip over it. I imagine nobody looks at it, and that's probably true. In my case, I'll look at anything really closely, anything you have to say in that evaluation forms. So please, if you take a little bit extra time and give me some good feedback on those forms, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so our format for this weekend, we're going to start off with a basic theory. Basic theory, we're going to be pulling from the I Ching, Nei Ching, and Nan Ching mostly. And then we'll look at diagnosis in this system. And then we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the counterbalancing aspect of the system. This is especially unique part of the Saam system, this counterbalancing aspects. So we'll spend quite a bit of time discussing that. Then we'll look at clinical application of this system. And then I've written up some of my recent cases that I'll share with you. What I'm really hoping is today, especially this morning when we discuss all the theory of the Saam system, I'm hoping that theory starts to resonate with you. And if it does, it starts coming up in your mind that, oh, there's a patient I'm seeing in clinic right now that I might be able to use this system for. What I'm hoping is that you will come up and present a case. This is really valuable, the feedback I've gotten from the class. This has been extremely valuable. Because this weekend is just like a theory. It's like a big bucket of theory this weekend. And then you have your other clinical practice, like a totally other bucket. It's so separate. So at least for this one case, if you come and present your case, this one case, it will be like a bridge between the theory of the weekend and your actual clinical practice. So at least for that one case, you'll get a whole bunch of personalized guidance that then you'll be able to use the Saam system for at least that one case. It's a really strong bridge between the two. So the feedback I've gotten from people that have presented cases has been really valuable. And then everyone here, too, this will be really valuable because we'll be working up a fresh case together. And this weekend, we're going to be working in groups and things like that. So if anyone has any mortal enemies here and online, too, let me know. And I'll keep you guys separate. So that if there's any mortal enemies, I don't like to put them together in groups. Okay. So after we do your cases, then if any of you is interested in it, I'd like to offer Saam treatment to anyone here that's in person. And that will be at the very end of tomorrow afternoon. So just consider something like that. So that's our format for the weekend. We'll start off with basic theory, then we'll look at diagnosing, counterbalancing aspect, clinical application. I'll share my cases, you'll share your cases, and then we'll have a treatment at the very end. So we'll start with theory and then move all the way through to actual treatment. Okay, I was going to have, we're so tight on time, I was going to have everyone introduce themselves and talk about things, but I think I'll try and meet with you individually and during the break. So we'll just skip this part. Yeah, because but definitely I want this for the live stream too. I just before this class, I was reading something. I'm heavily introverted, so in order to prepare for talking, I have to read a lot of books about it. So I read one book about it, and they had a great quote on there, and they said that if you're going to give a talk to someone and you don't know anything about the people you're going to be talking to, it's like writing a love letter and starting the love letter with, "To whom it may concern." So I'd like to know a little bit about you. So I'll be meeting you guys on the weekend. And then everyone on the live stream too, I'd like to know a little bit about you too. So I'll be asking students here individually, but I'd like to hear it in the live stream. I have 4 questions for you on the live stream. And then you can type it in, and then Kate will show me during the break your answers to that. The 4 questions I'd like to ask everyone in the live stream: how long you've been in practice, the type of practice you have, meaning do you especially focus on anything like infertility or orthopedics or community clinic or something like that? I'd just like to know a little bit about that. And then where your practice is located. I know we have some international people, and that's always good to know. And then a good book or film you've seen or read recently. So that's the 4 questions: how long you've been in practice, type of practice, location of your practice, and a good book or film you've seen or read recently. This is you guys. You get the great thing about this class is then you get all the Saam information. But I think you guys as my book club. I've gotten so many good recommendations from the students. So that's the one perk for me for this weekend. I have to talk in front of you, so I appreciate the good book recommendations. Okay, so that's the introduction part. I'm gonna go start the class. All right. I always think the best place to start is before the beginning. So let's start before the beginning. And I'm going to use the right clicker for this. So this big circle we have at the top here, it's wrong. We actually can't represent Wuji. So anything we put there is wrong. A blank space with a black line around it, that's wrong. If we say the void, we always think of something like blackness, or that's wrong. This is undifferentiated matter, so we have no concept of this Wuji. The literal translation is Wuji, the absence of the ultimate, right? But we don't have any concept of that. It's beyond our recognition. Whenever we thought to ourselves, oh, that's what Wuji is, that's wrong, because we're always still doing polarities in our minds. So Wuji we have to just represent with a circle, but it's not right. This is before the beginning. Taiji, we all know about this, right? This is perfect balance. We actually, we never get to see this either. We finally get to start see this in this world when things differentiate. And then, for I Ching theory, right, solid lines are yang and broken lines are yin. So when the Taiji splits, we get that first bifurcation. We actually get to see things in this world. And I think of this first bifurcation is you and I, right? So now I'm here and I can see you. We have a bifurcation. When everything's all together, there's no differentiation. So this is as fundamental as it gets. This is the you and I. I had a small panic, but I'm okay. Okay, so here's further differentiation. Again, here's our yang line and our broken yin line. And then when we make trigrams or hexagrams, we always build them from the bottom up. So that's what this gray part is going to be showing us, the building up part. So now we have this differentiation. So Sharon, you and I already had you and I, us split. And now it's you and I start having some type of relationship. The most extreme is like love and hate, right? So we had the bifurcation, you and I, and now we have another characteristic, right? The relationship we have. I should probably just keep this in my hand. Okay, and then this goes further. So this is when we have this bifurcation of you and I, and when we get another characteristics, the you and I, love and hate, that's still a little bit too, that's not enough information for us for medicine. Medicine is, we need more complicated theory. There is a tradition, also a Korean tradition, where we call these in Chinese the 4 images, the sixiang. These 4, the 4 bigrams. And what they do in this Korean tradition, they feel like when you're born, you get one of these bigrams. It's calculated on your birth date. And so now you come into this world with this bigram as your marker. So based on that, you get foods, herbs, and acupuncture points totally different from the other three. Doesn't matter what the problem is. And I found this pretty remarkable. I do a little bit of dietary work too. And there's a monk in Berkeley that does this 4 bigrams work. And I always found this really amazing, right? I would go to give dietary recommendations, and they would say, oh, this monk also gave me dietary recommendations. It would match what I did. All my hard work for getting differential diagnosis would match. This monk just does calculation from the birth date. So I thought that was really interesting. But for us in the Saam system, we need more information, right? These bigrams are too... It's just not enough information. We need to get to the trigrams. So trigrams here, we are building up again. Again, these bifurcate, and then we add a yang or yin line into each one. So let's take a look at that. Before we do, Leslie, would you mind reading this for us?
If you do not understand the I Ching, you cannot practice medicine. Sun Si Miao.
Leslie, is there any ambiguity in that statement?
It's pretty straightforward.
What about this one? It's going to
It looks the same.
It's going to advance in a sec. Leslie, what about this one?
Okay. Medicine and the I Ching are the same. This is because heaven and the human body conform to the same laws, namely the principles of yin and yang. And though medicine practice is complicated, we can use yin and yang to summarize and analyze all its permutations. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to do it manually. All right, so let's now, from Sun Su Miao and Zhang Jiabing, right, they've given us this is really important for our medical practice, these titans of Chinese medicine, right? So we should look at these things really closely. So looking at the 8 trigrams, right, we can see that based on the I Ching, they have certain qualities. That's on the upper part of this row, this middle row has to do with the I Ching qualities. And then, so we have to import those I Ching qualities, and we have to take them into medicine, right? So what we can see is, for the I Ching quality, right, we've got pure yang, 3 yang, and then the other side we have pure yin. So what we have is in between these two, we have like a dance as the yin and yang play out on each one. So we have this heaven and earth, the mother and father of this world, right, gives birth to these 6 children, right? So these 6 children all have similar, a mix of qualities of the mother and the father. And then even things that we usually think about, like fire or lightning, we always think of as yang. Yes, it's true, yang on the bottom and yang on the top. But inside, especially when we think about fire, we have to have some type of fuel for that. So we've got yang, definitely hot, and we got yang, definitely bright. But it has to have some kind of fuel inside of it. So it's not pure, it's actually not pure yang, because it has to have that yin fuel, that dark, dense wood, right, that's fueling it. And then water, the exact opposite of that, right? We always think of water as being so yin. It's not so yin, it actually has a little bit of a mix, right? Because water, yes, is a tendency to be cool and obviously wet, but it has some yang nature to it because it always wants to move. Waterfalls or currents or something like that, it has that yang nature embedded within it in the very center of it. So this is the I Ching way of looking at the body, and then we have to import this into the Chinese medicine world. And this is a nice clean way of doing it through the 6 conformations and the 2 extraordinary channels of the Ren and Dumai. So this is a perfect match for this. Pure yang in Chinese medicine, we have that in the Dumai. And pure yin, we have that in Chinese medicine in the Renmai. And then the mix of yin and yang, we had that manifestation in the 6 confirmations. Leslie?
What is above in Jue Yin, the wind chi rules it. What is above in Shao Yin, the heat chi rules it. What is above in Tai Yin, the dampness chi rules it. What is above in Shao Yang, the minister fire chi rules it. What is above in Yang Ming, the dryness chi rules it. What is above in Tai Yang, the cold chi rules it.
Thanks so much. Right, so now we have the qualities associated with the 6 confirmations, especially in the macrocosm, like what we're experiencing right now. Anybody feeling that wind chi and that cold chi, right? Me too, I had to get some more tea. But so here, let's build up our system with this foundational aspect of the 6 confirmations, right? So now we've got our confirmations here on the left, and we've got the qualities associated with them from the I Ching and also from Su Wen 66. So we can see for the I Ching and Su Wen 66 for Jue Yin, it has this quality that we're all experiencing right now, right? This is not our windowless conference room. We're getting this, the Su Wen in the I Ching right now would say this wind. We've got this gentle wind coming towards us, so this is really nice. It's good. It's good because we can now. It's a somatic understanding for us for this wind. Shaoyin, fire, and Heat Chi, that makes a lot of sense. Taiyin, marsh, lake, damp, right? This is all matching up really well with the I Ching and the Su Wen. This is a little bit interesting here. Now, the I Ching is going to say thunder has to do with Shaoyang, and then always for Chinese medicine, we have minister fire. So we can say 2 actual things about that. It's so great, now we're getting some more quality. So when we look at the Shaoyang, we can think about thunder, and we can think about minister fire. Same, likewise with Yang Ming, we have more information. Usually for Chinese medicine, when we look at Yang Ming, we only get dryness qi. We're really familiar with that. But using the I Ching lens that Sun Simiao Miao recommended for us, we can actually include mountain energy in it as well. And mountain energy, if you have any experience with this alpine energy, always a little cool. So now we have this nice experience. We have dry coolness associated with Yang Ming. And then Tai Yang, I Ching is going to give us water. Again, new to us, because usually we were always focusing on the cold qi from Su Wen 66. So now we're going to have cold water associated with Tai Yang. So again, we're getting a much richer understanding of the confirmations by looking at by bringing I Ching qualities. Leslie, do you mind talking? Thank you.
Su Wen Chapter 5. Wood, liver, gallbladder is characterized by wind. Fire, heart, pericardium, small intestine, sanjiao is characterized by heat.
Yes, and we should differentiate this for the Saam system too. For this phase wind, we really focus on this strong wind. Like this is still a little bit gentle. When this starts getting more ferocious wind, that's the phase wind. The Jue Yin wind is a little bit subtle and nice. So this is a nice thing to differentiate too for the Saam system. Both wind, this is maybe you're getting a little bit of phase wind now, just like ordered. Thanks, Lou. Okay, and so, but this fire, we all know this, but anyway, so this wind, start to differentiate in your mind. Jue Yin wind, a little bit soft and gentle. This one's a little bit more like what's picking up right now.
Earth, spleen, stomach is characterized by dampness. Metal, lung, large intestine is characterized by dryness. Water, kidney, bladder is characterized by water.
Oh, 1 second. So anyways, so this is so nice. So now we're going to be able to import these things for us because like I told you, the Saam system likes to take into account the yin-yang, the 5 phase and the 6 confirmations. So we've gathered all those qualities together. And now Leslie's going to read us about Harrington Emerson, who wasn't a Chinese medicine clinician, but might as well have been.
As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble.
We could just easily put Sun Tzu Miao down there, but Harrington Emerson, he was an engineer. Oh, this one too, Leslie, if you don't mind.
The main idea behind complex systems is that the ensemble behaves in ways not predicted by its components. The interactions matter more than the nature of the units. Studying individual ants will almost never give us a clear indication of how the ant colony operates. For that, one needs to understand an ant colony as an ant colony. No less, no more. Not a collection of ants. This is called an emergent property of the whole, by which parts and whole differ, because what matters are the interactions between such parts. And interactions can obey very simple rules.
Great. So this is, again, also not a clinician. This is a financial guy with several billion under management. And so he likes to think about these kind of things too. Again, it could be a clinician, right? Because this is what we're going to really focus on, right? The 10,000 things that we see in clinic. But what about the simple rules that we can diagnose and treat with, right? This is the author of The Black Swan. Okay, Leslie, I'll give you a break.
Yin-yang, 6 conformation and 5 phase qualities. Liver organ system. Yin plus jueyin, wind, plus wood, wind, equals dark, cool, dense forest.
Sharon, do you remember that from the slide before? Well, we know this one anyways because we're Chinese medicine practitioners. We know it's a yin organ. Remember we got jueyin wind from I Ching and Su Wen, both agreed with that.
Yes.
And then Su Wen 5 tells us about wind. So when we talk about this dark, cool, dense forest, we're a little bit fortunate. We have one representative. Everyone in the class can look over here and see this nice redwood over here. And so we get to see that now. We're going to see an image of a forest in a minute, but this is nice. We can actually look at our own redwood here. But so this is the qualities of liver, because it's yin, it's wood, and it's shui yin. So when I was studying with my teacher, this is how he would teach me, and that's why I'm so pleased we get to talk about this outside too, because this is where I learned a lot in clinic, obviously, but also we go for walks, and we went for a walk near here in a deep redwood forest. So we got way into the really deep, dark, dense part of the forest, and we're walking. He said, "Okay, stop. Okay, this is liver organ system when it's in excess. It has these qualities." I didn't quite understand this at the time, right? I didn't, this, but now this makes more sense to me now. We can see the macrocosm and then its manifestation in the microcosm of our patients. So this, again, like I said, we're really fortunate. We have one representative of this forest here. Maybe someday we can have a class in the actual forest itself, but otherwise we got a good representation right now. So this is the liver organ system when it's in excess based on the I Ching and Neijing qualities. This is what is represented on the outside. Of course, we're not forestry people, right? So that doesn't. But this is nice. We can recognize these things on the outside, like we're experiencing right now with this wind. We can recognize these on the outside, and then we can start recognizing them inside for the patient. If we understand the outside and the inside, then we understand the totality of these qualities. Sharon, do you mind?
Yin-yang, 6 conformation and 5 phase qualities. Gallbladder organ system. Yang plus Xiaoyang, thunder, fire, plus wood, wind, equals expansive heat.
Can you see it in your mind, Sharon?
Yeah.
right? So we've got a yang nature, so we got expansive already. And then remember we got thunder, fire. We got these two from the I Ching and the Suwen. And then we have this wind. And I told you this wasn't little wind like we had at first. It was more that wind. We have that little gust. So that's much stronger wind. So this is really expansive heat because, Sharon, what happens when you bring a whole bunch of wind into a fire?
It's warm.
Yeah. So again, we can see the gallbladder organ system manifesting in the macrocosm with this image. Expansive, explosive heat, and really a lot of violence. Sharon, do you mind?
Heart organ system. Yin plus Shaoyin, fire, plus fire equals extreme heat.
Great. Fortunately, Sharon, we have yin here. Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble. I don't think we could handle having hearts like this, right? Because at least we have this yin aspect to balance this, but we've got double fire here from the Shaoyin aspect and from the phase aspect. So this is extreme heat. This is what my teacher talked about. This is heat so hot that it actually burns the earth, right? So this is double fire. Fortunately, we have yin nature, like I said before, right? It's not like the Dumai or heaven that we saw before. We have that little bit of yin in there, fortunately, because otherwise this is completely out of control.
Pericardium organ system. Yin plus Jueyin, wind, plus fire equals warm day with a cool breeze.
This is almost to cue here as the sun just came out for us. So this is getting everyone feeling a little bit better, a little more balanced here as we have this sun coming out, plus our cool breeze. This is, again, Lou was such a great job here. Okay, so this is a much more pleasant aspect because remember this Jue Yin wind, I told you it's a nice cool, it's a nice gentle breeze. And then also, Shannon, the nature of this, it's inward. It's really inward. The other one, the phase wood, is a little bit more outward. This Jue Yin wind is inward. So this is a warm day and a cool breeze. Everyone on the live stream, you can look at that image. Everyone else, you can look out here. Right? This is the warmth is not quite right. I tried to dial that in perfectly with this. We didn't quite get that exactly right. But this is it. Warm, bright day and a gentle, cool breeze. This is perfect for this, right? So this is on the macrocosm. Do you mind handing that to Billy?
Small intestine organ system, yang plus taiyang, cold water plus fire equals dynamic movement.
Why, Billy?
Because you have cold water going in with fire and a bit of yang, and so you have explosive, cold and fire combined is explosive.
Yes, you have your fire going and you dump water on it. Big choom happens, right? So this is fantastic. And this is not contained at all, right? We don't have any containment on this fire water. It's yang, so it's very active. So fortunately, we can't cue this up in the environment, but this is a little bit of chaos, right? So we don't get to pull this up for you, but maybe a little bit later. Usually here in California, we see a lot of this, right? As we have raging fires and the firemen trying to put it out, right? This lot of chaos here, as the fire is really uncontained and they're trying to use water to put it down. Do you mind, Billy?
Sanjiao organ system, yang plus Saoyang, fire plus fire equals warm brightness.
Right, so this is, again, we've got so much yang again here with the double fire, but the focus on, it's not the heat anymore, like we saw with heart. The quality is going to manifest as brightness. So everyone here in person, if you don't mind, can you step out and look up towards the sun here? Don't look directly in the sun. Everyone on live stream, you have to use this image. But here we're so lucky we're not in this windowless conference room. See if we can come out and see this. This is Shaoyang excess energy here. the unobstructed part of this, right? There's no clouds. There's nothing protecting this. The brightness is just coming directly upon us. Thank you. Sarah, do you mind?
The spleen organ system. Yin, Tai yin, damp plus earth damp equals inner and outer dampness.
So this is the swamp, right? So this is, again, it's not too differentiated, right? Because it's a yin organ system plus damp plus damp. That's a lot of yin and damp and everything like this. We do get, like usual with Chinese medicine, we do get some yang coming from this, because if you've ever been in this swamp, this kind of fetid nature, then it gets warm. We get this double damp, but it starts getting sticky warm. So we got this quality, definitely tons and tons of damp in the swamp, but then as everything composts, a little bit of warmth comes up from that. Do you mind, Sarah?
Stomach organ system. Yang plus yang ming dryness plus earth damp equals inner dryness and outer dampness.
So this is an important point for us to talk about this too. The conformation is going to manifest a little bit further on the outside of the body than, excuse me, I'm saying the opposite. The conformation is going to manifest deep in the body, and the phase is going to manifest more on the surface of the body. So same thing with nature. The conformation is going to manifest a little bit deeper. So this, I spent a little bit of time in this Tibetan plateau. This is really stark, you'll see this. Just bone dry, and then you'll come across water like this. So this mixed, inner dry and outer damp. Okay, like I promised you, I'm going to take especially good care of your attention this weekend. So let's take an 8-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll continue with our discussion. Thanks so much for your attention. Okay, great. Everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a good break. So let's move on with our discussion a little bit further. Sharon, can you grab that microphone?
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Do you mind?
Okay, lung organ system. Yin plus Tai yin, dampness, plus metal, dryness, equals inner dampness and outer dryness.
Do you remember why there would be dampness on the inside and dryness on the outside?
No.
Okay, yeah, this is, thanks so much for saying that, right? This is what I was saying before. The conformation is going to manifest a little bit deeper in the body, and the phase is going to be a little bit more on the surface. So with this Tai yin dampness, right, that's going to manifest deeper, that's going to more in the inner part, and the dryness is going to manifest more on the outside because it's a phase. So again, mixed pattern, a little bit like what I saw in Tibet too. Wet and dry, and just in such stark contrast like that. Just nothing but dryness, and then these beautiful crystalline lakes.
Large intestine organ system. Yang plus yang ming, dryness, plus metal, dryness, inner and outer dryness.
So the phase and the conformation, they match. So we say this is double dryness, right? So inner and out, both, we don't even have to remember phase or conformation. They're both dry. So the whole thing is going to manifest as dryness. And then, Sharon, do you remember from the discussion before what the I Ching has to do with this section? This has to do with mountain. So we've got double dryness, dry on the inside and dry on the outside. And then, do you remember what you have any experience being in alpine areas?
Yes.
What's the climate always like in alpine area?
It always feels dry to me.
Yes, and cool.
And cool.
So this is exactly perfect for what we're saying with this one. This is why this is such a good image here for us, right? definitely dry, bone dry, dry on the inside, dry on the outside, and then always, because you're in an alpine situation, always a little bit cool, always a little bit of coolness associated with that.
Kidney organ system. Yin plus Yin, fire, plus water equals consolidated liquid fire.
Do you remember we saw this before, where we saw fire and water, but it was a yang organ system? And since this is a yin organ system, we're so lucky because this yin organ system, it's consolidated. So we have fire and water, plus it's consolidated. So we can have this fire and water, but not this chaos. Remember Billy was reading to us before about the fire and water coming together and chuming together? This is the opposite of that. We have fire and water because it's a yin organ system. It's going to consolidate and pull that fire and water together. This is our life force, right? It's stored in our kidney. Consolidated liquid fire. My teacher talked about this gasoline that's lit on fire, consolidated. This is the best I could do image-wise. I actually had to buy this image just because I just could not find anything on the internet. So this is fire and water as consolidated as I could do image-wise, right? So everything's coming in, right? So rather than that chuming fire and water, now since there's a yin organ system, it can consolidate and contain that.
The urinary bladder organ system. Yang plus Taiyang, cold, plus water equals extreme cold.
Right? We know this one, Shauna, right? Whenever water is such a good conductor of things. So it conducts heat and cold, electricity, it conducts everything so well. So by adding cold and water together, it's going to really conduct a lot of cold into our body. This is extreme cold for the urinary bladder organ system. So this is a nice image for us. And then everyone who went and got a blanket earlier, you also experienced this as the temperature in here really got very cold. We didn't have any dampness, unfortunately, because that would have been perfect if we had a nice rainstorm come at that time. But this is, we can see this kind of image here before, where it's just so cold that part of it's frozen and then part of it's still a little bit liquid. This is a great time if anybody in person has any questions or anybody on the live stream has any questions, because now we just finished the macrocosm look at the 12 organ systems, and then that's again great. It's very orienting for us as clinicians, right, to recognize these qualities in the macrocosm. But actually, we're clinicians, so we actually have to work with these in the microcosm. So we did the big broad view with the macrocosm, and we're about to dive into the microcosm. Anybody have any questions about anything that they've seen so far? Okay, great. Oh, yeah? Hold on one second. Thank you.
You could use the mic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the initial explanation, theoretical understanding.
Thanks for saving the glass and fixing the internet.
You're welcome. The definition of each of these systems, for example, with liver being yin plus Jn plus wood, those are three components. And I'm curious about the definitional aspects, meaning that, we kind of memorize in school that yin, yin yang, zangfu organs, and so you kind of memorize it. But I'm curious, where's the definitional element of, which text does it say yin equals liver, and where in the text does it say Jue Yin wind equal? Is that in the Su Wen? Is that in the Yi Jing?
Yeah.
Is that in the Shahan Lun?
That's in Su Wen 5.
Okay.
And Su Wen 66.
For both of those, for
the phase is in Su Wen 5, and the confirmations in Su Wen 66.
okay, and then as far as the yin yang definition.
That's embedded throughout Chinese medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So the Saam system tweaks it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we just did the fire and water. So the yang, one of the natures of yang is spreading and going throughout the whole body. And then one of the natures of yin is consolidating. So we just touched on that. the Saam system itself emphasizes the yin and yang qualities a little bit. We'll touch on those as we go through. But yeah, yin yang is the basis of Chinese philosophy, Chinese medicine, everything like that. So we can always use those qualities that should inform us. But then the Saam system has certain special takes on that, on the yin and yang qualities.
And so specifically, when you combine the three and you take three, sort of like, you know, as an arrow going through all three, yin yang plus the conformation plus the phase, where's the definitional? Where is it? Is that in Huangdi Neijing or something where it says, you know, by combining these three, it equals liver?
Yes, it's the Saam system. Usually these are all spread throughout all the different, I'm understanding your question better now. Yeah, these are all spread throughout all the different texts. The really unique thing about Saam is this is a great time to talk about where this tradition's coming from. So 400 years ago, there was a wandering monk named Saam, the name of the system, right? So in Korean, Saam means like a rocky cliff. So this is, different monks have different attainment levels. I know you have so much experience with the Buddhist monastic tradition, but certain attainment levels and certain practices that will do. So this monk, Saam, he vowed to never go into a dwelling, ever. So he would just live among the rocky cliffs. And he was a wandering monk himself. And so at that time in Korea, 400 years ago, it would kind of ebb and flow their interest in China, Chinese philosophy, medicine, and things like this. It was a real high watermark in Korea, the Chinese medicine. So there was a ton of Chinese texts 400 years ago in Korea. They were really looking to China for a lot of interesting information. So again, we have to piece this together because these monks with a lot of attainment, they didn't leave back detailed biography. People that don't believe in the self don't usually leave a detailed biography. But so what we can see is he had access to these Chinese medical texts and looked through them and said, oh, it's a coherent system that they're talking about. It's all spread out through the Nanjing, Neijing, and Yijing, but he, with his attainment level, he could just see it. Oh, it's one whole coherent system. We just need to put these all together. Normally for Chinese medicine, we keep these all separate. Usually for acupuncture, we do phases, and for herbal medicine, we use conformations. For him, he thought that's a mistake separating these and using different parts. We can use them all together in one system. So as far as we know, he's the one who's kind of synthesized these. But he didn't just make it from whole cloth. He just, when he read the text, when I read the text, it's so confusing to me and it seems like so many contradictions. When he read the text, he's like, oh, it's making it this blueprint to use all three things simultaneously for everything we do. Usually for Chinese medicine, we separate them all.
Okay, so basically it's definitional per Saam, per the monk.
He put this together as far as we know.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. But it's all from all those texts. He didn't make anything up.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thanks for the great question. Kate, something from the live stream?
There is a question from the live stream. Should I use the microphone?
Yeah. I'll bring it to you.
So, question from the live stream
Okay,
is
real quick. I only like easy questions.
only easy questions.
Nothing complicated like Billy's asking me all this high-level stuff.
They're all easy.
Okay. All right. With
Let's see
that
how
preface,
this
go ahead,
reads.
Kate.
The liver/wood aspect in 5 elements seems to be associated with heat, fire, anger, red face, active, chaotic. Seems that we are looking at liver in an opposite way with this system. How can we reconcile this?
Can you ask that student, what was that student's name? Oh, maybe they don't want to. Anyways, what about, I think you're really close to this. What about if we use its pair instead of the yin pair? What if we talk about the yang wood? And then see if that makes sense to that student. Maybe you can look at, you can find those qualities. Do you remember the gallbladder qualities? Right, of this fire and expansive heat having to do with anger. So again, that's not really yin qualities, anger, heat, fire, things like that. That's more yang qualities. So for this system, we really emphasize that those qualities have much more to do with the gallbladder and much less to do with liver. Liver itself is dark, dense and cool. That's more like depression and things like that. And the yang wood is more anger, fire. So we'll discuss that as we go through these a little bit further. But that's a great question, yeah. Usually we think about the liver having to do with anger. For this system, we think it's more appropriate to put in with the yang wood gallbladder. Like I was saying before, this thunder, this violence, this fire, much better match for what's going on with the wood, more yang nature. So that's a great question. Kate, anything else?
No.
Okay, great, thanks.
Oh, I think she has a question. I'm sorry. Carmela, I believe Carmela has a question.
Great, go ahead, Carmel.
Yes, go ahead, Carmela.
Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I don't hear.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, can I ask a question now?
Definitely.
Okay, so if this, what you just said now, is where it's bringing some confusion about the UV for me, it's yang, so then why UV is cold if yang is warm?
Remember, it's mixed. It's yang, but do you remember the other two qualities that have to do with it from the phase and the conformation for UB? Do you remember the qualities?
The qualities of UV?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I like to.
Yeah. For the conformation, we got that from Suwen 66, is cold. Taiyang has to do with cold. That's from Suwen 66. And from Suwen 5 has to do with water. So this is what we're talking about. Yes, it's definitely a yang organ, and thankfully for that, because we were here, you're probably warm where you were, but we were really experiencing this UB excess here for a little bit earlier, as we were really, and actually we did get a little bit of water because we had a little bit of fog coming in too, so we did really experience it. It was regular cold would have been fine, we would have been feeling a little bit cold, but since we had fog coming in through with us, we definitely felt this cold. So it's true, it's a yang nature, yang quality organ system, but since it has these two qualities associated with it, that yang's overwhelmed by that cold and that water. So that's why we have this extreme cold. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's a great question. Again, these are the questions I like to do right now because this is really foundational for us. The 12 organ systems. This is where we're gonna leap off into very complicated clinical things. But that's why we have to make sure that this foundation is really strong and firm. So I really appreciate all these questions. Okay, Kate, anything else?
No.
In person? As long as it's easy, Billy. This better not be a big classic text question. Thanks, Kate.
So I'm trying to understand the what you taught earlier about the bigrams and the trigrams versus what you just went through with the organ systems. Mm-hmm. So, for example, with liver, yin, that's wind, right? And so if you look at the trigram with wind, it's two dots followed by a full and then followed by a full. So I guess the question is, how do you map the trigrams onto the organ systems that you just described?
Yeah, that's a little bit too complicated for us.
Start and master's end. To beginners, it seems easy. The masters know how difficult it is. Ling Shu, Chapter 17.
Thanks, Stephanie. So, like I was saying before, yeah, we're not forestry people, so we're clinicians, so we have to really focus on this. So I put this image in the lower part of our screen here, just so we can keep in mind the macrocosmic aspect. But of course, as clinicians, we have to work in the micro. So let's look at this a little bit more clearly. Let's go what Ling Shu is saying about us, right? That the 12 channels, everything happens with the 12 channels, life, death, illness, everything like that. So let's keep our focus on there. And let's look at these qualities where there might be some kind of problem. So when the liver organ system is in excess, these qualities will manifest. A little bit like how we had before. Excuse me, when the liver organ system was in excess, we had that cool breeze and that darkness coming over us. So we felt that from the macro. Let's see what happened if we were exposed to that long enough and would go into our micro and really manifest there. So what would happen to our body is our body would become cool, right? Because we're constantly getting bombarded by that, and become dense and heavy. A little bit like these redwood forest energy. There's a density, there's a heaviness and a coolness to that. Eventually our body would take on to those natures. So we can get from the outside, or we could have got from our parents. Somehow we got these qualities in our bodies. If we have these qualities, that means that the liver organ system's in excess because it's manifesting those qualities. The mental focus is dull and inward. So this energy, like I was saying before about that Jui Yin wind, is more inward focused. And especially with all this denseness and things like this. So these type of people, they go through their life like this. Completely behind their shield, they're not interacting, things are not getting in, they're not getting information because they're so inwardly focused, they can't take in information from the outside. They have no desire to control others because they're barely aware of other people, so they don't want to manipulate them and control them. They're just so inwardly focused behind their shield, they're not aware of seeing other people and trying to control them. This is a very important part for us for the Saam system, this diagnosis from observation. The Saam system itself is its main diagnostic parameter is observation. And so this is a really key part for us on this one. When the liver organ system is in excess like this, there's no shun in the eyes. Dull, very, very dull, the eyes.
Tony, can I ask a question?
Please.
So,
wait for that microphone, please.
so when you speak to the liver being in excess, we are taught about pathogenic factors. Can we speak to a specific pathogenic factor that may be part of that
Cool,
picture?
dark, and dense.
Got it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yeah, that's fantastic. This is pathology when the liver organ system is in excess. The patient has a problem with too much cool, too much dark, and too much dense. And then, Dennis, can you? I'm sorry, I didn't get to see you on break. How much clinical experience do you have? Have you been a practitioner for a while, or? Yeah. Oh, do you mind? Can you have the microphone?
Yes.
Okay. How long?
22 years.
Okay, great. So you know this from your palpation, dense or not, right? The patients could be, say there's two people just like me, I'm 6'4", 200 pounds. But you can have my doppelganger here, and you can palpate, and you can find a whole bunch of really light energy in me, right? Even same weight, same height and everything like that. Or the tissue is just packed in, totally dense, right? Yeah, so this is the packed in, totally dense people. And they have dull eyes, and they're cool. And they may be depressed too, because they have all that dark redwood forest energy on them. It's just way too much in their bodies. And they're just behind a shield. So that's the pathology for this. It's a great question. They're impolite because they're behind their shield, right? They come in and they knock stuff over, and they're not trying to be a jerk. They just do it. this I'm opposite of this. So this hurt me to take Leslie's computer and bump it into her. That hurt me. A liver excess person that doesn't register. They're not trying to be a jerk to Leslie. They're just so behind their shield. They don't notice what's happening. They're just bumping into everything all the time. They have plenty of blood. This dense, cool nature of blood, they've got plenty of that. So they've got blood excess here. And then also, Dennis, to find pathology here, there's anything along the liver and Sanjiao channel trajectories, anything along them. Itching, pain, rash, a whole bunch of moles, anything along those pathologies, that's going to, we could consider this patient having liver organ system being in excess. This is where someone was asking such a great question about that. Oh, but isn't liver associated with heat and anger? And yeah, I mean, it's very close, right? It's paired organ, it's paired wood organ. Because it's yang nature, it's going to have those more qualities. Remember, with this thunder and lightning and fire and just really expansive energy. This is expansive energy is real anger energy. So this is the gallbladder organ system when it's in excess. Rapidly changing emotions, especially anger. The patient's there with you and it switches. They're crying and then they're laughing and then they're crying and then they're laughing and then they're shy and then they're out. This rapidly changing emotions, there's no stability there because it's lightning. It's just going back and forth to lots of different things, but especially coming to anger. The archetype for this gallbladder organ system being in excess for my teacher, he thinks about this as Mike Tyson, right? Mike Tyson is explosive and angry, and then his job is to beat other people up. And while he's doing that, there's very few rules in boxing. One of the rules, Leslie, is you cannot bite the other person's ear while you're boxing them. Mike Tyson ignored that and hit him, and then bit his ear. So this is, for my teacher said, oh, this is gallbladder organ system when it's in excess, especially anger. This type of person, Leslie, is going to not make any kind of rational argument. If say you and I have a disagreement, they're going to come at you like this. Okay, so no discussion, sword out. Okay, this is like Mike Tyson, right? He's not going to have a little important tea time with you or something like that and just let's discuss your problem rationally. Just bam. Okay, so sorry, but I had to demonstrate that. But anyway, so this is the sword. Remember we saw before with the liver organ system being in excess, we saw the shield. This is now the sword. And then there's going to have this type of patient when the gallbladder organ system is in excess, they're going to exhibit convex diseases. So these are diseases, Dennis, anything that's popping out of the body, right? These convex diseases, bumps, say shoulder just all up, convex, just coming up and out of the body, because this gallbladder organ system, when it's in excess, everything's going to want to come up and out. So anything manifesting like that, convex diseases. Dennis, do you think Mike Tyson sleeps well?
It's funny you would bring him up because
I know what you're going to say because I already talked about this. This my teacher, when I was with my teacher, we were talking about only young Mike Tyson. Now I know currently now Mike Tyson now. First of all, Dennis, before I comment on this, do we have a principle in Chinese medicine that excess of yang leads to yin?
yes.
Okay, so now so I'm telling you about young Mike Tyson. He was so extreme. What's he like now?
He's like a Buddha on the side of the ring, observing with a healthy separation between the material and the spirit.
It's beautiful, right? He's taking care of birds or something all the time now and everything like this. Yeah, so that's older Tyson. So we're talking exclusive. So I bet maybe he sleeps really well now, Dennis. Let's say young Tyson. Can you imagine him pacing around his house at night, or do you think he was sleeping peacefully?
When he was younger?
Dennis, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. When he was younger, he was very angry, and he was looking for people to have a license to beat up in the ring. Like that was, he was like a robot. He was like a
Bit
machine.
their ear.
I'm sorry?
Bit their ear in the ring.
But only twice.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't pure gallbladder access. Then maybe he had some other mixed organ systems. But yeah, so I can picture Mike Tyson, young Mike Tyson, walking around his house. And when he's walking around his house, Dennis, is he taking nice, slow, easy breaths? Or is he?
He was pretty systematic, though.
So would you say he has shortness of breath?
Likely.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, I didn't know young Mike Tyson, but my teacher seemed to sense this, that this is his archetype, this Mike Tyson. Okay, so insomnia, shortness of breath. You can experience this with the patient, or while the patient's there, you can notice shortness of breath, or they can report to you. Either way, this is gallbladder organ system being in excess. And then Dennis, this is going to have pathology along the gallbladder channel and pericardium channel trajectories. It doesn't matter what it is, just something along them. It could be pain, whatever. Okay, remember this is our double fire, and we have our lava there to remind us that it's double fire. Again, fortunately it's a yin organ, so it's slightly contained, but it's still double fire. So since we have double fire in this organ system when it's in excess, the body is going to be prone to high fevers, hot flash, all of our heat things that we always see. This system also really takes into account that we don't think this is a metaphor, that the heart loves. We feel like this is the heart actually loves. This is where love comes from the heart. And this is, we'll see later, love directed back at yourself. We'll see with another organ system, but for this one is love directed at others. So this is all that love going out there for others. I talked about this recently in another class, but this is here, really near here, our classroom here. There's pet shelter. And at that pet shelter, all the employees know, and they even have a poster about it. They call it menopause. So women, when they go through menopause and they have hot flashes, this heat makes their heart organ system become in excess, and they come in and look at all the puppies and the cats and take them all home with them. They call this menopause because these women come in with this. So when the heart organ system's in excess, this love directed at others on the outside, they just go in and scoop everybody up and take them home because this heart organ system being out. These patients' pulses are going to be rapid. This system, like I said before, this is a observation system. And my teacher, we had quite a bit of discussions about this, and he was reluctant, but he had to eventually admit, yes, you can check pulse, and if the pulses are rapid, then we could consider this one, right? This is just standard Chinese medicine, but my teacher, he wouldn't check pulse. Like I said, he was a great observer, and I already told Leslie about this, but I'd like to tell all you about this, right? So when I was seeing patients with my teacher, he knew Chinese medicine doctors would, I'll do this for live stream people, he knew Chinese medicine doctors would always feel the pulse, so he'd always feel the pulse on this side. And so then I'd have to say to my teacher, and then he'd go like this, but then while he was feeling pulse, he was always like this, because he just was acting it out. Same thing with tongue. He would say, oh, may I see your tongue? Okay, because he was just such a great observer of everything. We saw many, many patients with my teacher, and he always did like this. So a great observer. So this tradition itself is observation, but reluctantly my teacher said, yes, pulses are rapid, then we can consider that one. This abdomen midline, this is a special area for the Saam system for we can evaluate if this heart organ system is in excess. So we take the sternum, the sternal notch here, and then about the width of my shirt here, all the way down to the navel, that section, we palpate along that, And if we find that section soft and warm, then that's another sign that the heart organ system could be in excess. And then in addition to that, we have, again, if we find any type of pathology along the heart channel and the urinary bladder channel trajectories, either one of those or both, any pathology along them, we would consider possibly the heart organ system being in excess. Pericardium, and then I put that picture down there to remind us, a little bit like we got to see before, right? We had that nice warm sun, and we had that nice cool breeze coming for a minute. Now we're back to too cold again here. Anyways, this when we had that nice balance there, this patient is going to manifest as intellectually snobbish. The reason why is, remember I was telling you about the Jue Yin quality of the inward wind? This is going to be they're going to be really into themselves and their own thoughts. This wind, this inward wind is some intelligence, and especially devoted at yourself is good, is going to be really focused. And then since it's a fire phase too, you're going to have good thoughts, you know, like we always do with the cartoons with light bulbs and things like that. So we're going to have that warmth and that inward cool wind. This person's going to have a lot of intellectual thoughts, and they're going to be, when this becomes really in excess, they're going to be a little bit snobby about it. Again, like we were talking about before about Mike Tyson with the sword for Leslie, and I was coming out with the sword. This time, no. I'm going to have my hand in my pocket and I'm going to have my tea. And Leslie, if I disagree with you, I'm going to make my 30 points, all with like a couple hundred references, and you can check those references and all these kind of things like that. That's how I'm going to argue with Leslie when I'm intellectually snobbish and my pericardium organ system's in excess. Dennis, like we saw before with the concave disease, or we saw the convex diseases before having to do with gallbladder, these are going to be concave diseases. Everything's fallen in. Those kind of sores that drop in, everything that's dropping in inside the body. Because again, that Jue Yin wind is going to go inward, and we're going to have a whole bunch of concave diseases. This, when I'm arguing with Leslie, I'm going to have a nice rooted body here. And I'm going to have really slow, deliberate movements. Leslie, those points that I'm going to make are this. Step one. And this kind of thing. Opposite of this gallbladder where you're just coming at her with the sword. Leslie hasn't even said a word to me yet. I've already got it out of the scabbard and about to slice, right? So that's gallbladder excess. This one is going to be rooted. See how I'm back here and rooted, talking to Leslie? That's going to be the pericardium organ system when it becomes in excess. A rooted body with slow, deliberate movements. And then we're going to continue with this pathology along the gallbladder channel and pericardium channel trajectories. Anything along these, and the more involved the channel, the better. So like gallbladder channel, say it's something, you know, right, the eye, and then the head, and then the back of the neck, and then coming out into the pelvis, and then out the side of the body. If the whole gallbladder channel is involved and the pericardium channel, the more involvement the better, the grosser the better, the more pain, the more rash, the more moles, the more anything that we see along these, that's going to give us a little bit more weight to consider the pericardium organ system being in excess. Okay, small intestine organ system. This is what Billy was talking to us about before when we had the fire and we dumped the water on it. Since it's a yang organ system, it's not going to be contained at all. It's going to spread violently when we put this water on the fire. So this is going to be diminished love for self. That's what we were talking about before, about the heart, this fire, and then love for others coming out of the chest. This small intestine, when it gets in excess, you have diminished love for yourself. This gets extreme and you become suicidal. In this world, you have to have a certain amount of love for yourself to want to stay in here. So much suffering in this world, so you have to have some self-love to stay here. If this is diminished enough, then you want to just remove yourself from this world. It's too painful. So this is the case of the small intestine organ system being in excess, possibly even suicidal. These patients are not going to be very fertile, and there's going to be little to no signs of blood stasis. Remember this fire and water Everything's just churning throughout the body, so there's no place for anything to pool, like blood, varicosities, painful menstruation. Nothing's going to clot and everything. Everything's just circulating too well because this fire and water is just propelling everything in the body. And then pathology, again, anything along these small intestine channel and kidney channel trajectories. Sanjiao organ system, remember when we went and stepped out here and looked at, and we're in the light, that unobstructed brightness and that little bit of warmth coming at us. So how is that going to manifest inside the patient's body when we see them? The body's going to be warm, especially the upper part of the body. We have that concept in Chinese medicine, heat above, cold below. This is going to be associated with the Sanjiao channel system when it's in excess. Heat above and cold below. And the whole body is going to be light. We can see these patients come in just really light, everything really nice and open for them. They're going to have sudden changes in temperature. Again, being outside, we really notice this a lot. Some people, no problem, they can manage this. Other people, they had to go run for blankets. And then suddenly they have to take the blanket off, and then put the blanket on, and then take the blanket off. And then always, when they're indoors, always taking the thermostat. I need a little bit warmer, a little bit cooler. Take this jacket off, put this jacket back on. Put a scarf on, no, that's too hot. This sudden changes in temperature, their inability to regulate their own body temperature, this is a hallmark of the Sanjiao organ system being in excess. These patients are extremely polite. They're very open and bright, and so they're really able to see everybody on the outside. They're not behind that shield at all, and they're extremely polite because they have their ability to focus on things on the outside is really really intense. Because of this organ system, all this brightness and warmth so manifesting inside their body, they have this ability. I always think about this one story about a Japanese book I heard about, a Japanese story I read, and it was about a tea ceremony. And before the tea ceremony, the host went out and there's a pathway along to the tea house, and there's bushes along there. And so what the host did is before the tea ceremony started, he went and put dewdrops at certain leaves along the bushes there. So that's pretty bright, open, and be able to focus on these details and like this. And then that's pretty impressive. But then when the guests arrived and they were walking to the tea house, the guests complimented him. Oh, you placed those dewdrops so beautifully. So this extreme openness and able to concentrate on things on the outside is really this is like Japanese culture like that, right? Really focus on these details on the outside, and extremely polite too at the same time. So, like Leslie, we talked before. We came at her with our shield, and we were so protected, and we came out with our sword. This type of person is going to come to Leslie with no shielding and no protection for the center. This is a really dangerous way to be in this world, but the Sanjiao access people, this is how they go through the world. Wide open. Like that bright sunshine we saw, no protection in the center. It's really dangerous. If they get angry, it's at themselves. Like, let's say, for example, your teacher has a little bit of Sanjiao excess, and before then they knocked Leslie's computer just to make a demonstration. Now they're angry at themselves. Intensely focus on these external details. Like I was saying before, this bright openness. Then you can notice, oh, this leaf, and then someone has placed a dewdrop on it so beautifully, right? The person behind the shield, they just bump right through this and crash through these and knock all these things off. The Sanjiao access can really appreciate that. Oh, wow, that dewdrop placed so beautifully. Right, so pathology, entire left side of the body. You see patients that come in like this, Sharon. Pathology on the left side of the body. I've got ankle pain, left side of my body. I've got knee pain, also left side of my body, and hip pain, and rib pain, and elbow pain, and wrist pain, and all fingers hurt, only on the left side. Headaches, left side. This pathology, pathology tends to manifest exclusively on the left side of the body. Also, if this patient has any pathology along the Sanjiao channel or the liver channel trajectories, either one of these, you can consider the Sanjiao organ system being in excess. Please. Oh, wait for the microphone, please.
How is it possible that it's only on the left side? What happening in the body?
We're going to look at the classical reference for it soon. We're going to look at the classical reference why soon, but do you have another question, or you're just wondering the classical reference?
Just like from imaging how that Sanjiao... Oh, pardon. Just for me, the imaging how that Sanjiao can affect on the left side, what happening, like if some channel, some meridian, or what is that?
We're going to discuss the theory in a minute, but I believe it's Su 152, but we have it in our slides. But I believe it's Su 152. It talks about the liver generating life on the left side of the body. So we'll get to that classical reference. But like this is what I'm saying before. So Sanjiao channel or liver channel, is manifesting life on the left side of the body. Do you know what from that same Su Wen chapter? Do you know what organ system is responsible for the whole right side of the body? It's the lung. So we'll discuss that in a minute too. And then again, we have all the classical references. Again, Saam looked through this Su Wen. It's so confusing when I look at it. Oh, it's so confusing. He just went, oh yeah, this is helpful, this is helpful. Oh, this is a coherent system. And just put it all together for us. Okay. Remember our swamp here. Remember, again, our swamp is double damp because of the phase and the conformation having to do with dampness. And then also, we're getting a little bit of warmth from this because of the composting nature. So how's this swamp going to manifest to us when we see our patients with it? Body's damp on the inside and also damp on the outside. So damp on the inside, really heavy, overweight. And then damp on the outside, wet, really moist skin, easy sweating. Damp is manifesting on the outside of the body. The whole body is going to be warm, again, because of this swamp nature. And the whole body is going to be heavy. They're going to feel heavy. They're going to, the energy you're going to feel is really heavy in the room when you see them. And then the whole body is going to be soft because double damp makes everything nice and soft. These patients are going to be really lazy and bored, and these patients are going to tend to have a sweet tooth. These patients are going to have weak bones, teeth, and gums. The reason why they're going to have weak bones, teeth, and gums, because what do you do, Shauna? Dennis, can you? Yeah, thank you. Shauna, what happens to metal when you put it in the swamp?
It's going to rust.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. These bones, teeth, and gums are going to rust because it's double damp and warm, so it's just going to get eaten away. Why would they feel numbness?
Sensations are dampened.
Exactly, yes. The dampness is getting covered up. They can't feel anything because they got damp and then damp on top of the damp. They just can't feel anything properly. So there's going to be a lot of numbness. And then there's going to be pathology along the spleen channel and the large intestine channel trajectories.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Okay, this question's coming from the chat, the Zoom room. Can you please talk about why illnesses are manifested not only on the channel organ itself, for example, the heart, but also on the channel of the opposite paired organ, UB channel in the 6 chi pairs.
Okay. Can you make a note of who that person is and they won a digital prize? Because they're about an hour ahead of what we're going to get to. So,
Got a digital prize coming.
ask that person for digital prize. Do they want are they interested in nutrition, Chinese medical nutrition, or Chinese medical characters app? Thank you. But yeah. So I won't answer that yet. When we get to that part, if anything's confusing, we'll discuss that quite a bit. But that's a great anticipatory question. We almost had to cancel the class because I ran out of hot water, but I had to back up. Okay. Stomach organ system channel is in excess, and this patient's walked into your clinic. What do they look like? Remember, because of the phase and conformation aspect, right? The inner part of their body, because of the conformation, is dry, and their outer part is damp. Shauna, what do they look like?
They're gonna have some oily skin.
Great, yes. They will have oily skin. What's their body going to look like?
Thin, wiry, maybe not okay, like Toby.
Yeah, really thin, and then oily on the outside. So exactly perfect, right? So that's the quality they're going to have. The stomach organ system is going to be in excess. They're going to be really lean and really wet on the outside. So the skin can just be beautifully that luxurious, moist skin, or sweaty, or greasy. Something's going on the outside, showing dampness, and then too dry on the inside. Why numbness again, Shauna?
Because that sensation is dampened.
Right. This is going to be a little bit less, right, because we don't have double damp anymore. This might be a little bit less numbness because we have inner dry where the sensations will be totally clear, but the outer dampness, yes, there can be still some numbness associated with that outer one. Why would this patient have perpetual financial problems, Shauna?
They're having trouble manifesting. I don't know.
Yeah, thanks a lot for struggling. This is like what my teacher said. My teacher said, yeah, these people are going to be broke. I said, what? These people are going to be broke. And I said, okay. And now I found this pattern over and over again. These people have a very hard time getting resources. These people have 3 jobs and no money, compared to people that sometimes have no job and they have rich friends and they just give them stuff and everything's just really easy for them. This stomach organ system is very difficult for them. They tend to have perpetual financial problems. They may be really hard workers, but they never catch a break. There's just always something happens and just pulls that energy out. They have a sunken chest. Why, Shauna?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just that inner dryness somehow.
Yeah, so like this, right? So that sunken chest.
Just for the Zoom folks, when we're answering questions, can we keep the mic up? They're having a hard time hearing.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Did your master tell you why they were broke all the time?
Oh, sorry.
Why were they broke all the time?
Yes, we will get to that part. We'll talk about that pattern, that why someone's rich all the time. We'll discuss that. And so if that's still not clear when we get to that one, yeah, we'll discuss that. But we're starting with the broke all the time one. And then we'll talk about the other pair, and then, yeah, then we can talk about, he talked about why.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so the thenar eminence. This is, along the lung channel here, at lung 10. This is going to be really deflated. I have a picture in a sec, but can I see yours? Yeah, that's okay. This is a slightly, come look at Sharon's thenar eminence at the break, and you can see slightly deflated. slightly. It's not.
To your right, just a little bit.
Oh, Kevin's going to get a shot of it.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. This is Billy. This is also we're talking about this financial thing, right? This is a special pattern here. I've seen this a few times, so that I included it here. I should say to you too. My teacher told me a lot, right? We spent quite a bit of time together, and what I'm sharing with you is things that he told me, I understood, applied in clinic successfully, and then sharing with you. So quite a few filters. My teacher told me about a lot of things I still don't understand exactly. I'm still really confused about some of the things. So obviously I can't share that with you, but this is clear things that I've seen. So here this is weak knees, okay? But so not just ordinary weak knees after losing money. It has to sit frequently. So you'll see this pattern in your clinic. If you do see this pattern in your clinic, then you have to consider stomach organ system being in excess using the Saam system. And then pathology tends to manifest on the right side of the body. Again, like we did before with the left, the whole right side of the body. Everything that happens with the patient, tends to happen on the right side of the body, on the lung channel itself, and on the lung channel trajectories. Okay, here is a deflated thenar eminence. Hopefully that's clear again. Anyways, this is, once you start looking at thenar eminences, this is pretty straightforward. It's a little bit hard, it may be a little bit hard to see in this picture, but I can make mine come up a little bit higher, right? You know, that's inflated, and this is deflated, right? When it's just really flat as you go look through there. We're gonna, in person, we're gonna go look at everyone's thenar eminence here at this break, but in general, right, flat is deflated, really plump and firm, that's inflated for this when you do this evaluation. Okay, everybody, let's take an 8-minute break and we'll come back. Great. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good break. And I hope you looked at your own thenar eminence. Okay, so let's move on here. Oh. So the lung organ system, when it's in excess, the patient's going to manifest with the outside dry and the inside damp. I have the exact archetype for this in my town. He is actually a banker. For my teacher, this is he used this idea of a banker, and then later on I found this person in my town as a banker. He is very overweight with dry skin, and I never saw this flesh around his lung 10 firm, full, and inflated, but I imagine it is, right? So this is, again, this thenar eminence here, really puffed out, firm, full, and inflated. The chest is inflated. This banker, you can imagine him in your mind, just chest way out and puffed out. Bless you. And this banker in my town always has plenty of chi and external resources. Everything's really, bless you, everything's really easy, comes really easy to him. He's the president of the bank and works banker's hours. You know, those are just real short. And then had investments that paid off really well, passive investments, really good rental income and things like this. So just everything really easy coming to him with this puffed out chest. And then I don't know about him, but probably he has pathology along the lung channel and stomach channel trajectories. Billy, do you want to ask me anything about that, this presentation? We were discussing before about, oh, wait one sec for the microphone. After this, we'll get to your question.
I guess I'll just repeat the question I asked earlier.
Is this answered your question?
No, I was wondering why fundamentally the kind of the fundamental yin, yin wood level, maybe? I don't know if that's how I should be thinking about it. Like fundamentally, why is somebody broke because of the channel? Not from a this, I'll call it definitional, where you say, okay, lung equals rich, but from a basic fundamental level.
Do you recognize who this is?
B12?
Do you recognize who this is?
Yes.
Okay. At the time this picture was taken, do you know who the richest person in the entire history of the world was?
I think the king of Timbuktu, right? He was very, very rich.
At the time this picture was taken?
This time, Bernard Arnault, the chairman of Louis Vuitton.
At this point, it was Elon. This is a year ago or so.
Okay.
Do you notice anything about his chest?
It's inflated.
Yeah. Do you think being rich inflated his chest, or do you think him having an inflated chest made it so he could have all these resources?
Chicken and egg?
Exactly. I don't know either. But this is the manifestation when someone is really, really wealthy and gets resources really easy, their body looks like this. So I don't know if the body attracts it or the resource attracts it. This would be a great research question for somebody, right? There's so many potential research questions for Chinese medicine, but this is definitely the case that when the resources come easy, this is the body type you have.
Can I think about it from the standpoint of the confirmation? So it's
Sure.
It's Tai-yin. The inner is Tai-yin, and the outer is metal, and it's dry.
So he's wet on the inside, would you say? Look
Yeah.
at the picture.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
And dry normally on the outside. He's wet in this picture, but normally dry on the outside, I would imagine. That's maybe why he took a dip, to try and moisten that outside. Okay, well, let's discuss throughout the weekend, right? We have the whole weekend to discuss this. But for me, I find especially interesting the 400-year-old Saam tradition predicts this body type for the richest person in the world.
Okay.
I forgot we need to get to our chat question, and then we have a question in the back in a sec. Can you start taking some pictures and send them to my wife?
Okay, so just circling back to a question in the spleen excess. The question is kind of confirming that in a spleen excess person, would they also be prone to brain fog and other damp cognitive states?
Yes, especially if it has to do with laziness and boredom and things like that. That's the really archetype things. And then we can stretch it to brain fog. But especially if that person is lazy, bored, and brain fog, then for sure. But just brain fog by itself, we could kind of stretch and say that that's double dampness, but that's not a lock for us in the Saam system. Usually there'd be something else, body type and things like that would really have to be important for that. We should say one other thing too that's really important. So the physical attributes are very important for the earth and the metal phase for the system. So that's why, especially we saw Elon's body, that's having to do with the earth phase, right? Stomach excess. So that body type is going to be really valuable for us for in the Saam system, the earth and the metal phase ones, anything having to do with that. So really dry and skinny with large intestine excess, that's going to be really important diagnostic for us. Double damp with spleen excess being really heavy. We're going to put a little bit more weight into our diagnosis, into these physical manifestations for the metal and the earth phases. Okay, go ahead with your question.
Hi, I'm curious if, because as I'm reading through this, it seems that people might be two out of, not just one organ system. So kind of thinking about, are there a certain number of attributes that you want to find to decide which one it is, or do you treat people as if they're maybe more than one, or do you just focus on?
Yeah, often it's more than one, but we're always trying to look for is the most gross thing in the body. So say the patient's 500 pounds and oily and sweaty, then we'd say, oh, that's extreme spleen excess. So then we want to treat that right away. But yeah, everyone's always like a kind of mixed of all these things. Let's say, let's do a perfect one, right? So we can say this patient comes in with the spleen excess qualities, right? So they're 300 pounds and oily sweating, okay? They look a little warm to you, and when you palpate them, everything's really soft and warm on their entire body when you palpate. They're really heavy when they walk around. You can see really heavy. They're everything they're talking about when you're talking to them. They're talking about how lazy they are, how they have Netflix with 500 channels, but I can never find anything to do. It's so boring. There's so much stuff to do, and there's nothing to entertain me. This patient's eating candy while you're interviewing them. They just came from the dentist, and they're like, oh yeah, again, all my teeth are cavities. Basically, they're going to have to replace all my teeth. They break bones really easy all the time. Their gums are really weak and bleeding. Their chief complaint when they come to see you is numbness. Let's do this perfectly. Numbness along the spleen channel and the large intestine channel trajectory. Then we'd say, okay, we know for sure for our diagnosis, this is spleen organ system being in excess. But usually it's, our clinical work, everything's always mixed.
Right.
But yeah, the grosser, the more weight, like I was saying, this is how I work in clinic, right? I go in and go to see the patient, and in my mind I have 12 buckets. And then I just start filling up a bucket as I see more and more things. So like this one we saw, the bucket's too full, right? For sure, I'm just, this is my diagnosis, spleen organ system being in excess, because it has everything we see in the Saam system.
Okay, yeah, and like for example, if someone had like all these attributes, but or something like this, and all the pathologies were on the other side of the body, not the one that they're meant to be on. Like for stomach, it's all the right, so but they were all on the left. Is that? I know this is getting
but that's a mixed quality. Okay. So then we'd have to diagnose. Like remember I was saying before, if everything really is on the right, say the numbness is on the right, and the we let's say everything's exactly on the right, then maybe we jump into that more. But almost always in clinic, we'll see that there's always one bucket that's the grossest one in the room. This is an excellent question. Yeah. It's always mixed pattern, but especially as you hone your diagnosis, this is always one that's much bigger, and then we go after that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Orly. Can you leave that one back there? Because I'm going to start directing my questions to Colleen only. So. Okay, any more questions or anything? Okay, so this is something to think about, right? Does this body type get the money, or did the money make the body type?
Did your teacher say something about that?
About Elon?
About chicken and egg?
Yeah, he gave some hints about it. Okay, Colleen, can you read this, please?
When the large intestine organ system is in excess, you'll see inside and outside both exhibit dryness.
Why, Colleen?
Because large intestine excess is dry.
Yes, but tell me about the phases and the conformations.
Because we have metal here.
Yep.
And we have Yangming.
Perfect.
Okay. Teeth, bones, and gums are strong.
Colleen, what if you put a piece of metal in the cool, dry desert? What happens?
Heats up.
Yep. No, cool,
well, in the cool, dry desert.
What happens to that piece of metal?
Constricts.
When you come back 100 years later, what's happened to that piece of metal? Nothing.
It's cool and dry.
It's just cool and dry. It's not rotting in the swamp. It's just still there.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing with our bones and teeth, right? Are these hard parts of our body. If everything's cool and dry, these things are great. They're really in good shape. Come back 100 years later, and that patient still has their teeth, and it's amazing. Wow, that's amazing. Never broke a bone in my life. Okay, what about this patient being never bored or lazy? What's up with that? Double dry, so they're just on
Yeah,
the go,
there's
and they're doing their
energy.
projects, and they're doing the next thing, and the next thing. They're not just lazing about looking at Netflix. They're like, oh, I've got this project, and I've got this project, and I've got this project. Now, okay, now, while I'm doing this project, I'm going to do this other project on the at the same time. This double dry and a little cool. They're going. They got projects going. Colleen, why thin and powerful arms? Colleen, why would a patient that's coming to see you in clinic that's manifesting large intestine organ system being in excess, why would they have thin and powerful arms?
Thin, because it's dryness.
Yes,
and then
double dry.
power, double dry. And powerful arms.
Okay, well, think about it. Why would this person tend to be stubborn?
Metal. This is metal.
And then they have pathology along the large intestine channel and spleen channel trajectories. Colleen, what's this? Colleen, no asking orally what this is. I'm asking Colleen what this is.
Well, there you have pathology along the large intestine channel. What is that?
Why would, do you want to come up and take a closer look? This is we have a much clearer image here if you want to come take a look. Does anybody know what this is? They can raise their hand, but don't say anything. Okay. It's definitely the jing in the low of the large intestine, right?
Yeah. What is happening here? I mean, it's kind of it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful, right? So this is, the picture that we see in Deadman where it's this single line from point to point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's more what the jingle looks like, or do you think this is more what the jingle looks like?
This.
Why do you think this person got this mark on their arm? Go back and ask Orly.
Orally. Oh, lightning.
Yeah, this
That's
person
from a
was
lightning
struck
strike.
by lightning, and they call this a lightning strike tattoo. And so everyone that's not in Chinese medicine, they just think, oh, that's interesting. Wow, they got struck by lightning. It has to be like that. Every person that's familiar with Chinese medicine is like, oh, that's a large intestine channel. So when we've been talking about over and over again, I'm talking about the spleen channel, or when its trajectories in pathology. You can't just think about the spleen channel in Deadman. You have to think more ecologically. This is ecological. This is ecological medicine, outside, inside. So it's not exactly like Deadman. In fact, it's radically different, because if you compare large intestine channel trajectory in Deadman and this picture, is really different. So your mind has to kind of spread away from that little bit of, point A to point B to point A to point B to point A to point B to more ecologically. Everything, these are flows in our body, so they look a lot more, in fact, they look exactly like this, right? We can see the trajectory of the lightning strike went exactly into this channel system. So your mind has to think about, when you think about the channel systems and you're diagnosing in the Saam system, you have to think about them like this. So rash, pain, whatever it is manifesting in the channel, you have to think like this. Orly, should we have Colleen continue to ask these things, or do you want to take it? Okay, great. Do you mind reading this?
No. Okay. So when the kidney organ system is in excess, exhibits strong sexual drive and high fertility, narcissistic, tends to exhibit hard masses in the lower abdomen.
Great, thank you. So this patient is going to have strong sexual drive and strong fertility because they have this fire and water consolidated deep inside their body. This is our life force. So this life force is going to want to replicate itself. And so when the kidney organ system is in excess, that life force is going to want to make a copy of itself. So it's going to have a strong sexual drive and high fertility. Orly, why is this patient going to be narcissistic? Do you want to ask Giselle?
Giselle?
Well, just what you just said, that strong life force that wants to copy itself.
Yes.
So it's very into itself.
Yes. Remember we talked about for the heart, that love for other beings, then you're going to go and scoop everybody up in the shelter and take it home because you just so much love for other beings. This is all that love is self-directed. So that's going to be inside. You love yourself so much you want to make a copy of yourself. Giselle, why would patients like this have hard masses, especially in the lower part of that body?
Because of that consolidation.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. This is that fire and water are going to consolidate, and then hard masses, especially palpable masses, especially in the lower part of the body. Great. Giselle, do you mind reading?
Exhibits fleshy, firm, and not dry or cracked medial heel. Pathology along the kidney channel and small intestine channel trajectories.
Thanks so much. And so this, anyways, again, kidney channel, small intestine channel trajectories. Okay, we got that. And we're not thinking about the lines we see in Deadman. We're thinking about the ecological lines of flows in our body, like we saw on that lightning strike. This exhibit fleshy, firm, and not dry or cracked medial heel. The area where you're going to check this out is right here. That section right there. Giselle, what channel trajectory goes right through there? Yeah, right. So this is a great way to evaluate this, especially mostly for our patients. We have them take off their shoes and socks, so it's really easy to evaluate this. So do you remember what organ system we're going to look at for the thenar eminence?
The lung and large intestine.
Lung and stomach.
Oh, lung and stomach.
Yeah, and then so this is a great one for the kidney, right? Because we can see this medial heel. It's going to be, let's get the wording just right, what my teacher said. Right? That section of the patient's body is going to be fleshy, firm, and not dry or cracked medial heels. Giselle, do you see a lot of this in clinic when that section of the body is like dried and kind of cracked?
Yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of feet lately.
Sorry?
I said I've been dealing with a lot of feet needling lately.
Okay, yeah. So again, this is so valuable for us, right? Because now, do you remember that quote I said before? How physicians are like anthropologists. Nothing human is strange or repulsive. Yeah. So this is for us too. Now we're just fascinated. Oh, let's look at those heels, right? Because that's valuable information for us to help alleviate the patient's suffering. So you see those dry, cracked heels before you just. I'm not sure with the system you were working with before, I'm not sure how you registered that, but for the Saam system, we say, oh, that dry and cracked, really weak heel, that can't be a sign of kidney excess because that section right there is going to reflect for us a major part for our diagnosis for the kidney organ system being in excess. So do you mind reading this?
When the urinary organ system is in excess, the pulse tends to be slow, cool and hard abdomen, especially the midline on palpation,
Just pause there for a sec. So remember we were talking about before, between the sternum and the umbilicus on this little strip of where my shirt is here? Do you remember, Giselle, when we palpated that and it was warm and soft? Do you remember what organ system that was associated with?
I believe it was the heart.
Correct, right? Double fire, right, is going to manifest here as really warm and soft. And so this exact same strip, Giselle, we're going to be checking for urinary bladder. What qualities are going to look when we palpate here for urinary bladder system to see if it's in excess? What are the qualities we'll find there?
Cool and hard.
Right, perfect. What's this patient's whole body going to feel like?
Cold.
And why especially females?
I'm not sure.
Did you ever have this experience when you're with males and females? Who gets the coat on first?
Females tend to.
Always, right? Always. So this is nice for our diagnosis. The patient comes in the room, and the only thing you know about is the gender. Female patients tend to be urinary bladder excess. So this is really valuable for us, right? So just knowing the gender, this really that really informs our diagnosis right away. And then, like I said, this is my teacher, right? His reluctant nod to all that pulse reading that we do. He said, "Okay, if the pulse is a little slow, that's fine. This can be a marker for urinary bladder organ system being in excess." Do you mind reading, Giselle?
Pathology along the heart channel and urinary bladder channel trajectories.
Great. Remember we talked about this before, this ice-cold water quality. Remember we have that picture down there, Giselle, to remind us about what the macrocosmic part is. This one, for the Saam system, the emotion has to do with fear. This one. Do you know what every novelist says when their character gets in an afraid situation? They say, "There's a cold chill going down my spine." But actually it's not the spine, it's the paraspinal muscles with the UB channel, right? Giselle, do you surf at all?
I've been 3 times maybe in my life.
Okay. In the Bay Area?
In Santa Cruz.
Okay, Santa Cruz is a little bit better, but still, as soon as you got into the water, what did you do? When you got into this ice cold water that was cold and damp, what did you do?
Tense up a little bit.
Yes.
My breath gets a little shorter.
And then you're being shy about it, but what else did you also do?
Oh. Well, Colleen says pee in my wetsuit.
Did you?
That's not a memory that I have, but
Giselle,
I'm sure that I have.
Everybody does, Giselle.
Yeah.
Giselle, do you know why you did that?
My urinary bladder channel was activated. My organ, the organ in the channel.
Giselle, are you separate from the environment?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so when you get into cold water, does that affect your cold water channel system in your body?
Yes, definitely.
And does that make it more excess?
Yes.
Because you're taking on tons of that quality. And so what does that make that organ do?
It activates it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's why everyone pees in their wetsuit. I could not figure this out until I went and talked to my teacher about Chinese medicine, because I would go to the bathroom just before I went surfing, and then immediately that first wave comes over your head, and then I'd have to pee, and I was like, what is wrong with this? So I apologize to my wetsuit. Everyone does, but you can't help it because you're immersed in that cold water. It instantly activates the bladder. Orly. We've been talking about these organ systems being in excess. Relative to what?
Relative to a deficiency somewhere.
Where's the deficiency?
In their counterpart.
Orly.
Oh my God.
Do you mind reading this?
Sure. Taiyang and Shaoyin constitute exterior and interior. Shaoyang and Jueyin constitute exterior and interior. Yangming and Taiyin constitute exterior and interior.
Thank you. So, Orly, everybody reads this in the Suan, chapter 24. But
say that again?
Oh, everyone reads this in Suan chapter 24.
Totally.
But then everyone just goes over it.
Right.
These pairings.
Yeah.
When Saam was reading this, he went, oh, these conformations are paired? Oh. That's everyone else just brushes past this section of Suan 24, but Saam thought this was really important. Orly, do you mind reading this?
Sure. When the ancients treated patients, they became familiar with the cycles of yin and yang and of time, and with the exhalation of qi from mountain, forest, river, and marsh. They discern the patient's age, body weight, social status, style of life, disposition, likes, feelings, and vigor. In accordance with what was appropriate to these characteristics and avoiding what was not, they determined which medicine was appropriate. Shen Kuo.
Great, thanks so much. So this is, I put this in here because I want to just remind us, since we're Saam practitioners, we're interested in everything, inside and outside, every aspect of everything. And the grosser, the more weight we put on it. Like I was saying before, when Giselle was in the ocean peeing in her wetsuit, right? She was immersed in gross cold water. That was affecting her. So if she does that all day, every day, we need to know about that as practitioners, because then we know that she has cold water inside her body. And this basically, we're just interested in everything in the Saam system. We have to, because the body's constantly, the microcosm of the body's constantly interacting with the macrocosm. Okay, so Orly, because you were exactly right about that, right? Yes, the counterbalancing aspect, the relatively excess and deficiency, what did they bend to? Would you mind reading this for us?
Counterbalanced pairs. So we have liver, which is dark, cool forest, inner contemplation, versus the sanjiao, which is brightness, piercing concentration on external objects.
Exactly, right? So this is how I interacted with Leslie here. I pretended to be liver excess with my shielding and bumping into everything, right? Because I was pretending to have dark, cool forest and just only thinking about myself, right? But in reality, I am Sanjo excess with brightness, and I have a piercing concentration on external details. So this is exact pairs, right? This is exactly two different aspects, a yin aspect and a yang aspect that can manifest inside the body. Can you see that, Orly?
Yeah, so would you say that, may I ask a question?
Please.
Like if someone is like, for example, very much a liver person, then they also
but let's be really careful with our language here this weekend. We can't say liver person.
Okay.
We have to say liver deficiency or liver excess.
Okay. If someone has a liver excess, is there a good chance that there's then Sanjiao is deficient, but it's hiding in there?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the crux of the system, Orly. I'm so glad you said it exactly like that. Okay. This is the crux of the Saam system. If there's liver excess, what must they absolutely 100% have to have?
Sanjiao.
Relative
deficiency.
Yes, exactly right. That's the entirety of the system. So here how it is on this screen right here, this is perfect manifestation of perfect health. So Sanjiao and liver, both exactly paired perfectly. You okay?
There's a big fly.
This is the downside to the nature medicine class. Okay, so let's say this liver is in excess, then this forest starts encroaching on this brightness. And if it encroaches it all the way, to here, that's depression, that's really dense tissues, like Dennis would recognize 22 years of being a clinician. He would just palpate this right away and be like, that's dense. The patient's going to feel cool. Liver excess, they're going to be cool above and warm below. Say I said the opposite. They're going to be... I did? What did I say?
Liver excess, cool above, warm below.
Thank you. Cool above, warm below. And so they'll have all those manifestations we saw. They'll be all shielded behind things. And conversely, the Sanjo excess, or really help, Leslie's going to help us. Sanjo excess is going to be warm above and cool below. So they'll have all this brightness, and their eyes are going to be like diamonds. So this patient's going to come in and see you. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm feeling so much intensity from that person. Whoa, that must be Sanjo excess. Or otherwise, they're going to come in dull behind their shield, and you'll be like, I'm not feeling anything out of those eyes. There's no piercing coming out of there because they're behind the shield. So this is the crux of the system. Is there more forest or more brightness? More forest or more brightness? This is what I was saying before about I have my 12 buckets. That's what I'm doing. A patient comes in to see me. Is that more forest or more brightness? And then I go on to the other pairs. Do you mind reading?
So we have gallbladder, which is expansive heat and outward aggression, versus pericardium, calm intelligence.
Right. So this is my teacher. He really liked to say about Mike Tyson, right, being the gallbladder excess, right, this expansive heat and outward aggression. Again, young Mike Tyson. Thank you, Dennis. Young Mike Tyson, right, that had the shortness of breath, insomnia, biting everyone's ear and punching them, biting everyone's ear twice. What's your archetype, Orly, for the other side of this? Pericardium with this calm intelligence.
Well, I think I remember someone mentioning librarian at some point.
This is what my teacher said. The pericardium excess is the librarian. Remember, the librarian is going to help you with the card catalog. Oh, that's 720.14 and third row, and then you take all that time, and they'll be really calm and rooted while they tell you about it. And if you wanted to try and argue with them, what would they do, Orly?
They would just probably stay in their chair.
Yeah, they would be completely unreactive to your thing. Oh, okay, well, here's your card, and you can write your complaint on that, and that's fine. What if you started arguing with Mike Tyson? Yeah, but he wouldn't even think about it. Right? He's just so reactive. So the librarian's so unreactive, and Tyson's so reactive. So this is this is our balanced pair, right? We got this nice calm day with a warm day with a little cool breeze. We're getting closer to that energy here now, right? As it warms up a little bit, and we still have that little bit of cool breeze, very pericardium-like. We're also calm and everything like this. We'd be all jittery if it was thunder and lightning right now, right? Because we'd just be so reactive to everything. So again, we're seeing that macrocosm on the outside, and then it's going to manifest for our patient so we can do it. So again, if the patient comes in like Tyson, this would be not 50-50 anymore. This is Tyson himself, young Tyson would be 99-1, right? And then the librarian would be 99-1. Mostly that calm day, it's warm, and you're just so relaxed with the breeze. You're just rooted back down. You're not going to argue with anybody. So as the patient comes in the door, you start putting these things in buckets. Is this person more like Mike Tyson or more like a librarian? Or can you give it to Colleen, please? Do you mind reading, Colleen?
Heart is extreme heat and love versus the urinary bladder, which is extreme cold water and fear.
Where's this love directed from the heart?
Heart is love for others.
Yes, so this is really important distinction for this, right? This is the person that's going to come to the shelter and gather up as many animals as let them take per shopping trip, and they'll be there the next day to get as many animals as they can do, because they feel so much love towards these other beings, and they see these beings in cages, and they're like, I just got to get these guys out of here. What about if the love's directed towards yourself? What do you do when you see those animals in the cages?
Yeah, you forget about the animals.
Yeah, you completely forget about it. You just keep walking by, right? You're thinking, yeah. What are you thinking about when you're just only into yourself? What do you think about besides the animals?
You're just thinking about yourself.
Which clothes you're going to get, which makeup you're going to get, how am I looking? Oh, yeah, this is the perfect image for this, right? So we can imagine this like looking through the window of the shelter, right? The heart access one is going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go get those ones. The kidney access is going to be looking at themselves, the reflection in them. Right? So that's perfect for us, right? So the patient that acts like that, then we know heart access. The patient that acts like that, we know is kidney access. Can I talk to Giselle again? Giselle, when you were on your 3 surfing trips, did you ever feel any fear?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's really, it's scary being cold water, just makes us afraid. And then I used to surf around here too, especially around Stinson, and it was like a lot of shark sightings, and so I was always a little afraid. Giselle, what happens when you're surfing and a little piece of seaweed brushes against your leg?
You flinch.
And then you pee, right?
And then I pee.
So using the Saam system, we can understand exactly what's going on with our body all the time, right? When you're in this extreme cold water, you have fear, always. And then again, just like our balance, right? So double fire, ice cold water. If someone's really afraid, then they're going to be cold. If they're really in love, this is every author says the exact same thing. Giselle, they say this too. Oh, he fell in love with her, and his chest was so warm. Right? Everyone says that. Everyone experiences this kind of thing. So, yeah. Giselle, do you mind passing the microphone to Dennis? Dennis, does this make more sense now, these counterbalancing pairs? Remember we had our fire water before, and we had a yang one and we had a yin one? You see how these perfectly balance each other, even though it's fire and cold water at the same time, and fire and cold water, because it's yin, it's consolidated, because it's yang, it's dynamic?
Yes.
Okay. Dennis, do you mind reading?
Spleen, inner and outer dampness versus large intestine, inner and outer dryness.
Right, so perfect. Again, Dennis, we put teeth in this, and they rot. We put teeth in this, and they're there for they're 105 years old. They still got all their teeth. Do you mind reading, Dennis?
Stomach, inner dryness and outer dampness versus lung, inner dampness and outer dryness.
Again, perfect pairing, right? So this is going to counterbalance in the body, like we saw before with our images. And then this is just to really recap this, just because this is the crux of the system. Orly already got this, but just for everybody else. Dennis, do you mind?
A liver excess necessitates a relative Sanjiao deficiency and vice versa. A Sanjiao excess necessitates a relative liver deficiency.
Does that make sense, Dennis?
Yes.
Does that make sense to anybody on the live stream or anybody here in person? This again, we're approaching the crux of the system. So this is not usually how we talk about things in Chinese medicine, excess and deficiency. But for the Saam system, this is, especially now you go back and read classical texts, using this idea about what excess and deficiency is. This is really a valuable way of looking at things. But this is the crux of the system. So anything that's not pretty clear at this point. Again, it's a new system, so it should be feel a little bit new. But as long as we understand this, right, that if we have all this brightness that we do, right, then we just have to have liver deficiency. We can't have dark clouds and this brightness at the same time. There's counterbalance pairs for each other. So we have to, if you diagnose liver excess, we just have to have a relative Sanjiao deficiency. And then here, just the pairs again, right? So just because again, we got this from, I think it was Suwen 24, right? About how we pair all these things. Jueyin and Xiaoyang and everything like that. So I just have them here again, just to make sure we got these pairings down. Dennis, do you mind reading?
Coherence refers to the fundamental but invisible pattern that produces the myriad manifestations of qi flow in the visible world. In order to gain the insight necessary for grasping how coherence manifests through qi at any one moment in time, physicians at the bedside, like scholars seeking to make correct moral and political choices, had to cultivate their own heart so that it would spontaneously mirror the heart of the way. Fixed prescriptions or the words of the sages could never accomplish this by themselves.
It's beautiful, huh? I just love this image of the physicians at the bedside, these scholars seeking to make correct moral choices. They had to cultivate your own heart so it would spontaneously mirror the heart of the way. It's just beautiful. But really what I like about this one too is fixed prescriptions, or we can never have just something fixed to match exactly what's going on with the patients every time. And so I have this in here because I'm about to give you fixed 4-point prescriptions. So this is a great way to get started with the system, but at some point you have to break these point combinations up. But for now, this fundamental aspect of the system, using these 4-point combinations, unbroken, this is a great way to start, a nice, safe, and very effective way to get started. So I'm going to give you these fixed prescriptions, but these are never going to be perfect for matching with the patients. As we go further and further in the Saam system, we can start breaking up these combinations and recombining them in unique ways to make sure it perfectly matches what's going on with the patients. But for now, this is a great way to get started with these fixed prescriptions. Okay, this is, I have this slide in here to just pause again one more time, right? Because now we're going to go from talking about it to doing it. So talking about it's so easy, right, Shauna? Just theory, and we could have just been philosophers, but we're not. We're gluttons for punishment, so we're going to be. Anyways, Shauna, can you pass the microphone to Shauna, please? Shauna, how much clinical experience?
Not much. I'm a student.
Oh, okay, great. So no, that's a good try, Shauna. Okay, so. Do you know what you're getting yourself into, Shauna?
I'm beginning to see the light is dawning.
The light's dawning about it, yeah. So this is really unfortunate. Dennis and I would 100% agree with the same thing. So now I'm 25 years of experience with the system. Guess what percent of the time I've been absolutely certain about anything in clinic? What percent of the time am I absolutely certain this is the right way to go?
I have a lot of faith in you, Toby.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're directing me to select a very low number.
Shauna's now figured out my teaching style is to ask questions that I hope that the students will answer. All right, well, this has been a good class, you guys. Okay, Shauna, what percent of the time in clinic am I totally comfortable and 100% confident in what I'm doing?
50.
0. I'm never, ever certain about anything, ever. It's really frustrating, but that's actually the proper mode you should be in clinic. Uncertain, double checking, triple checking, uncertain, unsure, what's going on, what's at the deepest possible level, what's other possible contributing factors. Like we did that Shun quote, oh, what kind of climates have they been in, what kind of emotional things, what's their social status, how much money do they have. You're just constantly checking, double checking. Is that sure? Am I getting misled by something? That's the state of the clinician, should always be completely unsure. And then what's your best understanding at this moment are you going to do? And then you perform that. And then, you know what happens, Shauna, because we're not philosophers?
Well, we get feedback right away.
And especially if you use a really, really powerful system, what type of feedback do you get?
Well, it could be instant.
It could be instant and really likely to, because you're using such a really powerful system. Do you mind passing it back to her? You're using such a powerful system, right? So the good and the bad of the powerful system is instant feedback. If you're right, you know. If you're wrong, you know. So this is, again, we never know till we put the needles in. The patient breathes 3 times. And then we look. And then we get to see if we're right or wrong. So it's nice. I mean, you're not in suspense for very long using a powerful system, but you're in suspense up till the clinical response, because you just never know. Do you know how many cells are in the human body estimated?
I don't.
Take a guess.
200 million.
That's about how many miles away the moon is. About 200 million miles away. Guess how many cells again in the human body?
Do you want to give me a hint whether it's more or less?
50 trillion.
Okay, wow.
So does anybody have any clue what's going on here right now?
It's constantly changing.
It's constantly, yeah. So even if you had if you had a bead on every cell for 50 trillion cells, and next second, what about all the emotions running through me right now? Thoughts, climate. So nobody ever has a clue. And I'm sorry somebody didn't tell you this till now, but yeah, this is a very demanding profession, but this is a really rewarding profession also. Really rewarding, right? Almost nobody gets to do this. Always they're part of a team or some technological thing or something like that. It's just us and some inert pieces of metal. Billy spent the week with me in clinic, and we saw some pretty amazing things. And I kept saying to him, yeah, and we don't need electricity, and we don't need the internet. You know how few professions can say that, 2 things?
I was just going to ask, so how frequently are you seeing an amazing result?
You can ask Billy.
I'm going to direct my question to you, Billy.
Almost every time. Almost every time.
Yeah,
it's pretty miraculous.
I appreciate you not doing any details too. We were just careful about HIPAA, and then all these we're going to be doing cases and stuff like that. It's all disguised and things like that. But yeah, it's pretty. This is a very significant system, and maybe this is a good time for me to tell you why I'm here in front of you. So I met my teacher, and it was pretty amazing. He saved my life and gave me something to do with it, my career. He didn't ask me for anything. I know I'm a layperson, so I have to charge you guys fees, and we do CUs and everything like this. It was just my teacher was a wandering monk, and so I was just wandering with him for a while, and he was teaching me. Shannon, do you know what he asked me to do? I mean, he didn't ask me for anything. He just said kind of casually if I was able to. Do you know what I should do? And so I immediately agreed to. Well, first I said to him, I understand this is a secret monastic tradition, so I will hold this for the rest of my life, no problem. And then he asked me a counter question. He said, "Is suffering secret?" Right. So he said, "Okay, I'd like you to pass this on." And so I immediately agreed. Do you know why? Because what I had in my head I would do. When I was 70, I thought, I'll take on a student or 2, This will be fine, right? It'll be. I can't talk in front of crowds. It's just I can't do it. So yeah, of course I'll pass this on. A student or two when I'm 70. Sean, I almost died, and almost took this with me. So while I was on my deathbed, I wrote a small Journal of Chinese Medicine article that I'd written other articles. One or two people had reached out to me and said, "Oh, that was great," or gave some feedback about this. Now thousands of people have read that article, and I thought it was the last thing I was going to do. So since it wasn't the last thing I was going to do, this is my life now, in front of people talking. Can you tell what my complexion looks like? Oh, sorry.
In general, or are you suggesting at this moment?
I'd like you to diagnose immediately my face.
I'm getting a lot of things from your face, but I think you have a little more blotchiness, a little bit of redness. At
A
the
little
moment.
heat above?
Yes.
What if I told you my feet are freezing cold right now?
Then I'd say I'm just like you, Mr. Sanjiao.
Do you see how neither one of us want to talk in public?
Mhm.
Because we're going through our lives like this. This is really not a great state to be in front of everyone.
Mm-mm.
Anyways, so where am I going with my story? So anyway, so that's why I'm here now, because my teacher asked me to. The teacher didn't ask me anything, and he asked me to pass this on. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Was there anything else we were going to say, Shauna, you and I?
You're going to say a lot. I'm going to try to
Okay, Shauna, I'm going to respect that. Okay, so we're going to now so this is easily the most rewarding profession. There's no other profession that's rewarding because you don't need anything else. You just need your perceptions and your diagnostic skill and just a simple technique, and then you can really help people. Billy and I saw rashes just go. We saw Bell's palsy close their eyes. They wouldn't be able to do for, how long was that?
It was 3 treatments.
No, but how long till he couldn't close his eye? How long did he have that Bell's palsy for? Do you remember?
Oh, it was a long time. I can't remember.
Yeah, he could not close his eye for a long time, and then we just put in 4 needles, and it's very rewarding. So anyway, so this is the most difficult jobs, but also easily the best job in the world. So almost welcome to the profession. It's great. Do you know what percentage of medical doctors would immediately switch to a different profession if they could, except for they have student loans?
I'm going to guess a very large percentage. Well, we'll start with 50.
60.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't this sad? Okay, because they're trapped. Insurance, and they just, these are some of the smarter people I ever know, but they've trapped themselves. Medication, surgery, insurance. This is, we can have for us, we can have a little clinic and do anything we want there in that little clinic and really help people. No insurance, or insurance if you want to. We're just so lucky. This is such a fortunate profession. Okay. Shauna, can you pass the microphone to someone else so I stop asking you questions?
Sharon, is it?
Sharon.
Oh, Sharon. Thank you.
Oh, Sharon?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Sharon. I've been calling you the wrong name for so long. Sharon, does this make sense to you, all the theory that we discussed at this point? Because now we're going to move from the philosophy part of medicine, which is all interesting and everything like that, to the actual application. And the application is messy because it's 50 trillion cells that we're going to be working with and things like that. Do you have any last minute questions or anything before we do that?
No.
Okay. Let's get to work then. Sharon, if you don't mind.
Diseases and their signs of suffering appear in innumerable combinations.
They sure do.
One must locate their origin and then sort out their endpoints. Shu da chu.
Great, thank you.
Nothing happens until something moves. Albert Einstein.
Do you mind reading this difficulty 64, please?
The yin wells are wood. The yang wells are metal. The yin brooks are fire. The yang brooks are water. The yin rapids are soil. The yang rapids are wood. The yin streams are metal. The yang streams are fire. The yin confluences are water. The yang confluences are soil.
Thanks so much. So this is the Unschult's language, right? But this is what we know. All yin channels, the Jing well starts with what? What phase? Sharon?
Sorry, where did I?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to remind us, this is all everything everyone knows from Chinese medical school, but usually we just brush over this. For the Saam system, this is a fundamental part of it. So I'm asking you, if you have a yin channel, which is
It's
Jing?
wood.
Correct. And then a yang channel?
Yang is metal.
Yeah. So this is, you can just remember this, and then you can just count it up. Okay. So this is, again, we're going to make up the theory for our system, and you can drink tea and read this later. But yeah, the nice thing is you're just going to be using 4-point combinations, but this is where the 4-point combinations come from. Sharon?
It is like this. In case of depletion, fill the respective conduit's mother. In case of repletion, drain the respective conduit's child. One must fill first and drain afterward.
So again, we're just building up our theory here from difficulty 69 in 75.
It is like this. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth should level each other. If the wood is on the point of repletion, the metal should level it.
This is everything we know from Chinese medical school. It's just all from here in difficulty 75. And in difficulty 75, it uses this term ping for level, but usually we say ke, to counteract. How do we translate ke? Control, yeah, to control. So usually we say should ke each other, right? But for whatever reason in difficulty 75, they use the word ping, but it's the same basic concept. They should level each other, they should control each other. Okay, this is the system, right? So now we've built it up. We've looked at from the Nanjing, the difficulties, and this makes our 4-point combinations. Again, this was sitting there for a long time ago, and there were some 2-point combinations, especially in the Japanese tradition they did. But this is, as far as we know, this is where the 4-point combination started, when Saam looked at these Nanjing passages and decided that this is actually a blueprint for a system, right? It's a coherent blueprint for a system. So people on the live stream, if you registered early, my assistant sent out to you these cards. And then for people on the live stream that registered in the last couple of days, these cards are in the mail to you. But this version of these cards we're going to have it on one of our slides, so you'll have this digitally available for you. But this point card itself is on its way to you in the mail. So do you mind passing this out? Or you just take one and move it on. Thank you. Thank you.
There's a question about needle technique in the chat. Do you want to address that now or later?
Yeah, for sure we're going to get to needle technique itself. Yeah, I think it's better to wait. But for sure, tell that person, yeah, 100% when we get to that section if it's still available. I think it's Billy from my wife. It's nice. Huh? Okay. Okay. So let's look at this. How we get these 4-point combinations. We're going to just do one to make sure we understand this. But again, this now you're getting the answers to this. How you're going to use this, but we'll just look at one 4-point combination and look about why we did that. Okay, so we want yin metal. So we're going to go to the earth point on the earth channel, the mother of metal. on the yin earth channel, right? The earth point on the yin earth channel, the mother. Spleen 3, we're going to supplement that point because we want to supplement the mother to get the sun, which is metal. Then we're going to go to the earth point of the lung channel itself, lung 9. And we're going to supplement the earth point on the yin metal channel. Again, because we really want to supplement metal. Yes, yin metal. And then what we want to do is we want to take off all the checks. So we're going to use 2 ways to supplement the mother, and we're going to take 2 ways to drain the check. So again, we're going to really generate a lot of metal, and then anything that's going to take away the metal, we want to take that off. We want to drain that away. So the thing that checks metal is fire. So we go to the fire point on the fire channel, heart 8, drain it. And we go to the fire point of the lung channel itself and drain it. Anybody have any questions about this? Again, this is just, Giselle will get you, do you mind passing this back to Giselle?
So this is a deficiency of lung. So what?
Yes, yeah. So this is like slightly. So this is. I'm going to give you 4-point combinations to supplement all 12 channels. This is the example for you've diagnosed the. This is not for Elon Musk. This is the opposite of Elon Musk. They're deficient in lung. This is the person that has hard time getting resources, working really hard, skinny and wet on the outside. Right, so you've diagnosed that. And then you're going to put these 4-point combinations, and this is the underlying logic for why you're going to use those 4-point combinations.
So you could say the patient is stomach excess?
100.
And then that means that this is then lung. Okay.
That's exactly what we're saying.
Okay.
We're saying that the patient is stomach excess, and then necessarily relative lung deficiency. And so then we've made that diagnosis. So this is the point combination that we're going to put in because Giselle, I'm going to do this with my hands many times this weekend. We're going to say this person's stomach excess and lung deficiency. So then we're going to take these 4-point combinations. And then once it meets, there's no more pathology. That means they're going to perfectly manifest everything. They're going to work hard and get plenty of money, but not too much money, easy and everything like that. Everything's going to just go perfectly balanced. So they're not losing all the time, over and over again, no matter what they do. And they're not winning all the time, no matter what they do. Okay, guys, it's almost time for lunch. And I think this is plenty of information for one morning. Oh, yeah. We'll do a quick chat question, but lunch is imminent.
Maybe not so much a quick answer, but
no,
quick
but
question.
that's no problem. Let's tackle it now.
Curious why we don't drain the excess instead of supplementing the deficiency.
Oh,
or do both.
That's a great question. Yes. So that's an excellent question, right? So we can, and actually for the Saam system, we have 4 points to also drain the lung. We won't do any of that this weekend. The reason why, Sharon, can I have that? Thank you. Sharon, I'm going to put my hands up and then ask you a question. Okay. So we have lung deficiency, stomach excess. So we have options, right? What I'm recommending with these 4 points, all these cards I gave you, is we're going to supplement the lung to bring that up, and so they're balanced and there's no more pathology. Sharon, another option for us is stomach excess, lung deficiency, and we can drain the stomach. And then balance, no more pathology. Why would we prefer to supplement? Okay.
To raise, to
Yeah.
improve, to
Exactly. I knew you,
not the right
Sharon.
word.
No, you had it. I could see from your face that you had it, right? So look.
To give
look-
more.
Yeah, right. This is taking from the patient. That's not good. I mean, again, the disease will be gone. Everything. The patient will be so happy. But what about their longevity?
Oh, right.
What about their life force?
Right.
What about all that vitality? Isn't it much better strategy, as long as it's not acute in some serious emergency case, isn't it much better to bring this up?
Yes.
Then look, they get everything. The overall system gets so much more, and they have that balance. So the pathology that was manifesting in that gap, it's gone. So that's, again, a great question. So when at all possible, we want to supplement, and especially since we're in Saam kindergarten right now, then it's much better to just to supplement these things. Because Sharon, look at this, right? Let's say we diagnose lung excess, but actually, what if that case is actually lung deficiency, and then we drain the lung?
Now
What
you're
happens to
going
the gap, Sharon?
Too far down.
Yeah. So that's, especially working with the powerful system, my arms don't even go that far. So we have to be very careful if we ever drain something from the body. If we make a mistake, we just make this gap bigger this way, but the system's not harmed. The system's actually gained something. So it's imbalanced more, but actually you add something to the system, then you come back and fix it, no problem.
First, do no harm.
Yeah, if we can. Great. Anything else more, Kate? Okay, great. So everyone in the live stream, please, thanks a lot for your attention. I didn't get to look at who I'm talking to on the live stream. I'm going to meet with Kate a little bit for this lunch, so I get a little bit of feel for who I'm talking to on the live stream. Everyone else here in person, thanks so much for your attention. Please take an hour break, and we'll come back here and continue our discussion. Thanks so much for your attention.